You gotta be upfront.
Yeah, you're actually on the camera now too.
It's not on camera, so we gotta move that.
Oh, well, I hate to break anything.
I'll move.
Okay.
Rod just doesn't want to be on camera.
Oh, is that it?
He's shy.
Well, better. Okay,
I'm camera shy too.
we'll admit all and then we'll get started.
You got the record button on?
Yes, it says it's recording.
Okay.
Not sure who the phone number is on there, but I guess if they want to speak, they can tell us who they are.
Betty's still muted.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning, morning, Phyllis.
Hello.
You ready, Carrie?
Yeah, there you are.
I'm going to call the meeting to order. We'll start with Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
United States of America. To the republic. for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
for all.
Roll call.
Mochler,
Here.
Packard,
Here.
Smith,
Here.
Manning,
Here.
Hammond.
Here.
Conflict of interest declaration. Hearing none. Approve agenda. And under Rhonda, we need to add tax contract.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
Yes.
Mochler.
Yes. Motion approved. Approved minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard.
Yes.
Mochler.
Yes, motion approved. Are there any visitors to be heard that aren't on the agenda?
Do you want to wait until the agenda item?
Yeah.
I'd like to speak, if you can hear me. I'm not on by picture.
Is this about a topic that's on the agenda?
You know what? I can't see the agenda anymore. It's about the courthouse. Is that on the agenda?
Yes, at 10:15. 10:10.
10:10. Okay, I'll listen until then, but I'll come back at 10:10 then. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other visitors? Hearing none. Sam.
Or you can come up here. Or she can come up here.
Yeah, you could.
You can come up here too if you want to.
Oh, I know. It's not on, so.
Okay, I am just asking for approval to submit our grant application for the Violence Against Women grant. The grant amount is $24,142.24. The match would be $8,047.40. And if that's approved, I would just ask that Travis sign the letter and I can get the application submitted.
I'll move to,
Travis to sign.
oops, well, go for it. I'll
Is that
second
a
it.
second, Phyllis?
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
So there was just one little question I had on question 7 in the application. It said months or years operating and it was 159. I assume that was months.
Yeah. Works out to
Yes.
what, 12 some?
Okay,
Yes.
thanks.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
Yes.
Mochler.
Yes, motion passes. Rod. We got resolutions, these 4 resolutions of closing bridges.
Yeah, we have, these bridges are already closed.
Microphone. I was tempted to say it before he started, just
Morning, Phyllis.
good morning.
These bridges have been closed. State has another round of federal money. You know, last year we have one on the agenda or on the system to get removed. So they've got another chance to get, they want to know how many we had. So we got 3. Last time I submitted 4, got 1. I don't know how many they'll approve, but one is there on 314th east of University. Over the Vermilion River. One of them is right by the landfill over Clay Creek. And I'm not sure what the other one was.
Is it the one north of Million?
Yeah,
Big one?
it was northeast.
Yeah, it was
Can
right,
you read the number?
yeah, it was right near that first one you listed. It's half mile away, if I remember right.
We've got a,
Well, the one that's half mile away from the first one, I said that's the one that's already approved to be
Yeah,
removed.
okay.
we've got a 14088,
Yep.
170.
Yep, that's the one by the landfill.
Okay, and then we got a 14130-176.
That's the one east of University on 314th Street.
And we've got a 133-170.
I thought that was already the one on the,
1.3 east of Vermilion. This is the other one, that 130-176, that's 1 east of Vermilion.
Yeah.
This is 1.3 east.
God.
One of those already,
Blank.
the one from.
What are these, the ones by,
Seems like
Manning's?
that one should be the one that's south of Manning's feedlot.
that would be the 130-176.
Right.
That's 1 east of Vermilion.
Yeah.
And this is 1.3, so that's.
Yeah, so that'd be the one over the river. So one of them we've already done then. So it should just be the 2 resolutions then.
Well, we've got 4.
Well, there is 4.
Yeah,
There's
there'd
a
be
140-012
Okay, that's,
by Irene.
yeah, that's clear up south 46, mile south of 46, just straight south of Highway 17. That's an old wooden structure. It's been closed for years.
So which one don't we need to do?
One's east of the feedlot.
He,
Yeah.
yeah, do them all and then I'll, if that's fine. He sent them in from out west and
Okay,
I should grab the bridge map.
because you took
Yeah.
out 1 east of the feedlot?
No. The
Or
one
south?
south of the feedlot is still there, but that's the one we've already approved
Okay,
and they've come and.
so that'd be the,
That's 465th Street. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be the 130-176.
yeah, that's the one we've already approved.
Okay.
Can we
We
approve
can
all 3 of
reapprove
these?
it.
Can we
Yeah.
approve them all together?
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve all the resolutions 2021-13, 2021-14, 2021-15, and 2021-16.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, so I have one question about, anybody who's affected by this. There were no addresses on any of the applications of people who would be affected. Is that because there's nobody who would be affected by it?
Yeah, they're already closed. This is just to remove them.
Okay,
And
and then,
yeah, there's no, these are on township roads. minimum maintenance at the best. Some of them are in the process of being vacated. So yeah, it's no, not landlocking anybody, all on the Vermillion River bottom or the one by the landfill.
Okay, great. That was my only concern.
Okay, my thing, we had one person for sure talking about we shouldn't take these bridges out because it's a good place to take their grandkids or their kids fishing. But we are still open to a liability suit as long as them bridges are there, even though we have them closed, which is something we have to go down and make sure the barricades are up all the time. So I agree, it's a nice place to fish off of, but I'm not watching out for that, unfortunately. If I'm trying to keep from somebody going out there and maybe getting up on one of them, driving in and falling through or, jumping off or something. So
Yeah.
that's
No,
the reason.
I think you're absolutely right. As long as we know that we'll never need those bridges again, because once we remove them, the feds will not spend any money on them ever again. So
Right. They can't. If something came up in the future, which I can't foresee anything, that we can't get any federal money to put it back. But I wouldn't be doing it if it was a place where there was a chance of that happening.
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring that up. So
Well, most of those roads you can't get across anyhow.
No,
Gotta be awful dry.
Right.
it's gotta be dry for a while before you could get to either of those two up by the feedlots.
Yes, exactly.
I've tried.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
yes.
Packard,
Yes.
Yes, motion passes.
is there a place Carrie has to that too? Okay.
Carrie, just email it to me. I'll get
Oh,
those
you want to do it? Okay.
and I'll send them to Pierre.
yeah, I will do that.
Thank you.
Then you got Leo.
Yep. Talked to you about those two signs the sports group wanted to put up out here off Timber Road, and that's what Leo was here for, so I'll let him say his piece.
Yeah, after your last meeting, when you guys discussed these signs, I was contacted by the game warden, the local one here, and wanted to know if there was something we could do to try to get those signs put up. And so I told him I'd look into it, and that's what I've done. Clay County Sportsman's Club is an all-volunteer, not-for-profit trap shooting club established in 1975 on the north edge of Clay County Park. They lease the ground from Clay County Park, but the buildings, trap houses, and equipment and surrounding grounds maintained by the trap club. We are open for public. They are open for public shooting every Wednesday evening at 6:30 p.m. During trap season, they host various shooting events throughout the year. They offer single and family memberships to help individuals defer cost of targets, and members are allowed to vote. Targets, and then members are allowed to vote at the club meetings, and they're the only ones that are allowed to vote. All of their profits from trap shooting and special events are reinvested back into the club for maintenance, insurance, moderate improvements, and as the budget allows to the club and grounds. They're proud to host 3 youth, young adult organizations that shoot trap. They're the Clay County Flyers 4-H Club, the EPJ Junior High School Trap Team, and USD Trap Team. And with that, they've requested that we put up 2 signs that just simply say the Sportsman's, Clay County Sportsman's Club. And is that the verbiage I gave you originally, Rod?
Yep.
Okay. And with an arrow pointing down there. Had Rod look into it, and he said about $150 for the 2 signs. And and then while I was at it, I then contacted Bruce Plate with the Pistol Club and asked them if they wanted in on the sign, and they said they did not. They don't want to advertise that they're down there. So we got 2 separate organizations with 2 separate missions. And with that, I'd request that you authorize Rod to purchase the signs and put them on the existing posts that are out there with the Clay County Park sign.
I guess when we had the conversation, are we allowed to put on those signs?
Yeah, I've talked to the game warden and I've talked to Rod, and outside of that, I don't know who else you talked to.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we can put the signs on the post. It was just the private sign is what I brought up. But I mean, that's up to you guys.
So you're gonna order them and they're gonna pay for them?
No,
Is that?
the intent was to have the county pay for them, but
I didn't know. I just found out how much they cost.
Is
yeah,
that
they give-
per sign or $75 twice?
Yeah, it's $150 for 2 signs, 75 a piece.
Okay.
I didn't figure $150 was too big of an investment. You know, the public uses them, uses the location, and it's open to the public, and seems like
The
something
only-
that should be.
The only thing I brought up the last time was the fact that it would be a private sign. If that makes a difference to you guys. Because it is not, I mean, it says Clay County Sports Group. Actually, what the sign will read is CCSG, right?
Yeah.
With an arrow. And it'll be brown background with white letters like the Game Fish and Park signs are.
So does that make us liable for anything that goes on down there? Doesn't that have? something to
I
do with it?
don't think that would be a problem. It's just,
They have their own insurance, and they maintain it.
So at the last meeting, somebody suggested that there was an ordinance that forbid private signs on public roadways. Is that relevant or not? I don't know. It might be the state's attorney who has to tell us that. Because as long as it's permissible under county ordinances, I'm good with it. But there was some suggestion last week that it was not permissible. And I think that's a state's attorney's call.
You're gonna have to have the mind.
So, you know, with me covering magistrate court, I obviously haven't been present for all the meetings. I'm not certain where that was left.
It's east on Timber Road, south of Clay County Park. When you get close to Clay County Park, excuse me. It's east on Timber Road, until you get to the turnoff to go to Clay County Park. There's a brown sign when you're going east, and there's a brown sign going west that say Clay County Park, and those signs were provided by the state. When the game warden contacted me, he requested that the county do it because it isn't actually a part of the park that the state controls now. And I don't want to go through the history of what the park board does and whatever, but it basically that land belongs to the county. It's just leased to the park board. And then they in turn lease it to the 2 different shooting clubs. One shooting club is open to the public, one is not. And the sign is just a part of Clay County Park as far as I can see it. And it's just saying that it's down there.
Where these signs go, as I recall, there's a sign that the present signs say Clay County Park this way.
Yep.
There's the boat ramp that way, campgrounds that way.
No.
No?
Yeah, Rod said yes.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
And then this would add a fourth sign on that same post that,
Well, they're big signs with everything already,
oh, okay.
a lot of it on one sign. I believe there's already 2 signs on there because they just revamped the signs. We put up
Right.
new ones for them, so this would just be mounted on one post. Would it be like 36 inches long by 9 inches high, something like that, so.
So this is Alexis. So the question for me is whether or not putting these signs up violates a county ordinance.
Right. You know, like having a businesses sign in the right of way or political sign in the right of way.
Is the rodeo grounds signed on there too?
I don't believe so.
I don't think so.
And why do we have concerns if signs are already up there that that adding another one would violate an ordinance?
Just that it's a private thing is the only thing that's the only reason I'm bringing it up is on account of the ordinance.
I make a difference with you, Rod. It's not private. It's open to the public. It is on Clay County Park. And
There's a lot not being heard.
I'm sorry. I kind of disagree with what Rod's saying. The Trap Club is open to the public and it's in Clay County Park, which Clay County actually owns.
Yeah, but the group is not affiliated with Clay County.
Right.
But I have no problem. If you want to put them up, that's fine, but I just, in the past, we've made people take signs like that down.
Carrie, are our county ordinances located somewhere out on the website? I generally can't find them, but
No, I don't have them on the website.
I think, Travis, you were saying that it was in the zoning regulations. Which I don't know if Drew has those on the.
Yeah, it'd be in the zoning regulations.
Do we need to table
They
this
have those on the
till I
zoning.
get a chance
I
to look
could
at
be
it?
wrong too.
Yeah, let's just
Should we just table this until
next week.
Yeah.
you get an opportunity to look at it?
yeah, that would be great. And I would just ask, and I don't know if it's more appropriate to go under commissioners or on where on the website, but it is cumbersome when I can't find our own laws. So I would just ask that if there's some way we could facilitate that, because then I can get a quicker answer to you if I can find it. And I certainly think if I can't find it, the public's gonna have a difficult time with that.
I've got to agree with Lexi. That was one of the things for the 16 years I sat up there is never had access to the ordinances. And and I can't say whether there is or there isn't because I haven't seen it.
To the zoning ordinances or?
Well, I've seen the zoning ordinances, but I don't see where this dictates anything to do with that, to be honest.
Would be under the zoning ordinances, under the signage. And where they can be located.
Our zoning ordinance doesn't have anything to do with the county signs, the highway signs.
Not for that, but for private.
Yeah.
So since
and-
we've established now that this is a public
Yeah, exactly.
area, so.
That's my whole thing there is it is public and
We can put them up, but
Just move it to next Tuesday.
Yeah. I'll give you some time to look at it, Lexi. I guess my concern is if we do this, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that if you do this, you gotta be prepared that other entities will ask to have their signs put up on it too.
But it can be private.
But that's what I mean, but there could be other nonprofits or whatever's onto that could be access to county stuff too. So I mean, we gotta make sure we're on the right place.
Right, but this is also on county property, so.
Right.
Where we're pointing them to.
Right, that's true. It's a little different.
Well, if that was a motion, Mike, to table, I'll second it.
Oh, yeah, it was a motion. Table it.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
Yes.
Mochler,
Yeah, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Leo.
Thanks, Bill.
Oh, 10-hour days.
Yep. Highway Department went to 10-hour days starting this week. So anybody needs to get a hold of anybody on Friday, I've called my cell phone. Also, load limits will be coming off on Thursday. All 6 counties in the southeast corner here, we're taking them all down same time. We put them up all at the same time.
That's 2 days hence or 9 days hence?
What's that?
2 days away?
Yeah, 2 days. This coming Thursday, yeah. April Fools. So if they're still up.
We can take them down.
That's cruel. That's a cruel joke.
We can help you out. Hold them up. I have a question for you though, and maybe you don't know the answer to this, but there's a gravel pit that they just started south of the coffee cup.
Really?
Yeah. On the west side of 29?
East side.
Oh, okay. That's been there a while.
No, they got a different one. They just started it. It's down there where Albion used to live.
Yeah.
And that's, well, I think Wagner owns the ground now,
Yeah.
but they just started stripping one there.
So is that Pullman?
That's what I don't know. I think it might be. It's either, but I was just wondering if you knew anything about it. Because somebody said that it was Union County, but I don't think so. I don't think that's who it is. It
No,
could
I-
easily be Mike Coleman because it's following that same vein, it looks like to me. But you know, he's got the pit north of that
Yep.
on the old highway.
Yeah.
Okay, so you didn't, I was just
No,
curious
I-
if you knew
And I
anything
haven't
about it.
heard anything about Union County opening up
Okay,
a
'cause
new
I knew,
pit either, so.
yeah, discussed that earlier one time. And I thought, well, maybe be an opportunity. I don't know how good the gravel is or anything.
Yeah, they didn't want to cooperate with us the last time.
Yeah, I knew that.
They didn't get any gravel out of that pit either, so we
No.
didn't get hurt.
No. Okay,
Ditch board, unless you got anything else, Rod.
No, that's all I have.
We get a motion to go into ditch board.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
yes,
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
Yes,
Mochler.
Yes, we're in ditch board. We have pay application number 3 and number 4 for the Yankton Clay Ditch Project. Looks like roughly 50, 62 and a half, 62.6.
Right, so there's 2 pay applications. The idea is that brings us up to 95% complete. So I held some back. Well, I held some back till we decide what to do with the cedar trees. And then also then there's a 10% retainer that I hold back until we're all done. We had talked about, there was one other spot for clean out. That one wasn't in the plans. I would have to add that one by a change order, which I can do. But you know, when I inventoried those, I flew it with a drone, and so I didn't see the one right there under the bridge. You couldn't see it with the drone, so that wasn't included. So if we do that, we just have to, they'd have a little more money coming to do that one.
Yeah, we got a -15 change order number 3 now. If we had a change order if it was under 15, we could maybe change it back, eh?
Oh, yeah, I can.
So in the overall, what I'm saying is in the overall budget,
You
there might be enough money there.
okay, then that's right. I didn't want to order that work done until we knew.
Yeah.
I could look into that and get with Dana and get that going. And I imagine you would, all at the same time. He's going to come out and do a little work, go back, come out again. But
So is the riprap also?
the riprap would be more than we change ordered off. So up to you guys, but I thought when last time we discussed that there wasn't a lot of traction on that one.
And this is by Holmes's, that riprap? I thought we were gonna get a bid on that.
Travis, near the mic.
I thought we were gonna get a bid on the riprap, see what Dana was gonna charge us.
Okay.
You had kind of a rough estimate, I thought, and then you were gonna get a
Yeah.
closer estimate.
Okay, no,
I think that's what he's referring
okay,
to.
okay, then I misunderstood, but yeah, we can sure, I can sure get that
Okay.
from them.
It is a pretty good swirl pit there.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it flows hard.
Yeah.
And on the bridge up there, in last week's discussion, we said there was at least the throats of the culverts upstream and downstream were both as small or smaller than that bridge. And if that's the case, it's probably not that big of a deal.
Okay. We'll look at it and study that one. That might be why it, usually if the water's flowing there hard, then the earth can't deposit because down it goes. So
Yeah.
it's likely the case is that it's not blocking as much as it looks like it does because it would erode it out if it were.
Yeah.
Okay. So I will do that. I will get with Dana then and it's going to be 20K to do that riprap. Get a price for that. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I noticed some really, really minor math discrepancies that I couldn't figure out.
Sure could be because I typed them up and I fat finger them from time to time. Which ones and will?
Yeah, so that first one, there was like a $15 difference between what I came up with and what you've got. So you've got 16,335. I came up with 16,310. But again, I am brand new, so this could be my error.
Said when I type these up,
Yeah, and then there's a minor math error in the other one too, but it's, they're really, really small. But I just wanted to call you.
we should get them exactly right. So.
Yep.
Yeah, the 16,335 matches between the spreadsheet and that one, but the pay request. Shucks. And they match on app number 4 too. So if there's a math error and I didn't check that, at least they match.
Right, they match, but there is a, again, I'm the new one on the block. And so, what we might be able to do is just go on to I can tell you how I came up with the numbers. I took the completed amount of the project, subtracted the amount paid, and then subtracted the retainage on the first one. And did pretty much the same on the second one. And again, they're very, very minor, I would say insignificant amounts of money, but in one case, I think it's less than $1. It could just be a rounding error. You might want to, even go on to the next item and then come back to this before we discuss the courthouse.
Are you close or not? If you're not, that's fine. We can wait.
Yeah, but
We'll do the bid opening.
I got my number.
Yeah, because we'd have
You
to
did?
come in, not a ditch board.
Yeah,
You got your number?
I did.
How's it look?
So what we got, we got the amount per date. And then, so let me just do the math one more time, make sure I get my number again. here. 1, 2, 5, 2, 5. Okay, so the amount to date is 135,525. We paid them 105,000. So subtract 105, 637.5. I added 525 minus 105, 637.5. So then that's 29,887.50. So that would be, and then I subtract the
Retainage.
retainer. 13 minus 1, 3, 552.5, 16,335.
You good?
Check.
Yeah,
So the numbers match.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Wishes? Or do you have more discussion?
I'll move to approve to pay the payment for the
Yeah.
ditch board.
Both 3 and 4.
Right.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second. Do we have further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes,
Packard,
Yes,
Mochler.
Yes, motion passes.
Move to come out of ditch board.
I'll second that if that wasn't a question.
That was a motion.
Okay, then I'll second the motion.
Roll
Sounded
call.
like a question.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
yes,
Packard,
Yes,
Mochler.
Yes, we're in regular session. I've got the bid opening. Microservicing. I got some people like to write down the bids.
That'd be great.
Thanks, Brad.
This is from Aztec. The mainline scratch course, unit price is $1.29. And there's all kinds of figures. Yeah.
1,138,466.70. I think I see the bid box there.
Was that 166 or 466?
466.
And what were the cents again? I'm sorry.
70.
Oh, you're reading the bottom number. Okay, sorry. Oh, sorry. Missouri Petroleum. And that's the number. All right.
Close, 1,156,792.10. So the parent low bidder is Ashtec. And then Carrie, what we'll do is I'll take these with me, double check them and all and the like, and then we'll bring them back in the meeting or so. Yeah, and what we'll do it, yeah, we'll just do it. Yeah, we'll do it here in the office and I'll bring them and I'll email you the bid tab and the notice and all that. And then I'll bring these back for you. But I want to check them over to make sure that all the math is right and everything's right.
Next Tuesday?
Yeah.
Work or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So who did our work last year?
Ashtec.
Okay.
And the year before.
Okay. Are both of these companies out of Sioux Falls?
No, neither are.
The second one was out of Missouri.
Oh, really?
Minnesota.
Okay. Guess I forgot.
Minnesota somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, St. Cloud. That's it.
Okay. Okay. Wow.
Okay, now we're to Pleasant Valley Township. Ron? Yeah, if you can get by Ron. Do you want to?
Box culvert.
You want to come up, Ron, and we'll just turn one of those microphones around. Just push the button.
You got to swear him in? Just ask it.
We got a box culvert on one of our township roads that is starting to deteriorate pretty bad. And a lot of the township members are getting a little nervous about driving their equipment across it. Was wondering if we could get some assistance on tearing it out. If we could share the costs, the county could tear it out, we would buy the culverts and put them back in.
Where's it at?
It's on 305th Street. About 3/4 of a mile west of Frog Creek Road.
Between Frog Creek and 458, right north of Donnie Lisa.
Straight west of Tom Larson's.
Mile north of the Vollen Road. You know where Donnie lives. It's the gravel road to the north of him.
Oh, that was minimum maintenance one?
No, it runs east and west.
It runs
Okay,
east-west.
Right there on the corner?
No,
Got to go east just a little bit, Rob.
East of there. Okay. Oh, yeah,
it
okay.
crosses that creek.
Okay,
It's the start of that or Spear Mountain Creek.
okay.
So your thoughts are is the county would pay for part of the tearing it out or all the tearing out and you guys would put it all in?
Right.
Okay. So I get this straight.
The last time we did one on 307th Street, the county paid for having it tore out. We bought the culverts and had the cost of putting the culverts in.
Okay.
But now we have an excavator.
That's
So
what
we
I
don't
was.
have to hire.
Well, we don't have it yet, but
Really?
it's sitting in Sioux Falls, yep. Waiting.
Sitting in Sioux Falls and ready to be delivered when we
No,
approved it.
wasn't ready to be. I had to put a thumb on it.
So how long would it take before we'd get that?
I have no idea. I would say by May. But I mean, the box culvert he's talking about, we wouldn't need an excavator to take it out, I don't think.
Oh, okay.
It ain't that big.
It's only about a 12-foot long.
Yeah, I think we could do it with our backhoe if we had to. You thinking like soon?
Whatever works for you guys.
So if we take it out, you're doing everything else. We just open it up and.
Unless while you're there, we can hire the county to put it back in.
You'll buy the pipe and what are you gonna, well, I don't care what you put back in it, so.
Whatever's gonna handle the flow, which
I don't have a problem with that. These guys been pretty easy to work with in the past.
We try.
Yeah, I'd be for that.
We need a motion on that.
I'll make a motion. Go ahead.
Second. I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'm going to abstain from this vote since that's my township.
Yeah.
Hearing no further discussion, roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes,
Packard.
Yes.
And then Mochler's abstaining.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
You bet.
I'll give you a call, Ron. I'll give you a call.
Need help getting their signs down?
Everybody wants to help put them down, take them down, but nobody wants to help put them up.
I know, right?
Did I see Drew? Drew, are you in the hallway?
Show yourself. That's all I have.
I think so.
Anything else you need?
Anybody have anything else for Rod? Nope. Thank you. Thanks, Brad.
Yeah, you're welcome, guys.
Rod, one thing, if anybody else is interested too, the TLC district meetings on April 6th in Centerville.
Okay.
What was that?
The TLC drainage district.
That Centerville?
Yeah.
What time?
Probably 7.
I think it's 7 o'clock.
You had to figure to email me that, would you?
Yeah. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Whenever you're ready, Drew.
We've got an application for county welfare for medical assistance for Vera Hospital. The medical records from the hospital indicate this was not a emergency medical procedure. So I'm asking to deny the application due to it's not emergency medical care and not eligible for county welfare. That's it.
So with our present policy, that fits with present policy.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, move to deny in accordance with present county welfare policy.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I guess my question is why this comes to the commission and isn't, an administrative ministerial matter. And it's because I'm new. I mean, I have no idea the answer to my question.
That we need a formal, we have an application and we need a formal approval or denial for the app. That is the best information I have at this time.
Okay, thank you.
But our basic policy is only for emergency.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes,
Packard,
Yes.
Mochler.
Yes. Motion passes. That it, Drew? Thank you. Rhonda? Whenever you're ready.
Okay,
Is your button on?
no, it's not on. How's that? You can hear me? Okay. First, we'll start with, I have a contract that needs to be signed by Travis. What it is we had property that we had started tax deed on, and in the middle of the tax deed process, the property owner filed bankruptcy, and we are part of their bankruptcy plan. And so I have a contract, like I say, for Travis to look over and sign, agreeing to their repayment plan. I can just hand this to you.
Yeah.
I did put the amount that is due at this time, and all the payments are laid out in the contract. Secondly, I have a resolution.
Oh, we need, let's,
Oh, sorry.
we need to have a motion to sign this. How should I explain it? Well, I mean, it's what you just explained. It's just a contract that says that they will pay the property taxes on a payment plan. And if they don't, then we immediately start tax deed again.
Yeah, it is written out in the contract that if a payment is missed, we will start contract for deed, or not contract for deed, tax deed property process again.
Has Lexi seen it?
Yep.
Okay, that's all I need to know.
So I move approval.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
Yes.
Mochler.
Yes, motion passes. So now we've got the mobile home.
Yep, now we have a resolution to move mobile homes to our uncollectible tax list. I have a list of them here. Most of these, well, all of these homes have been destroyed. So there is no mobile home to collect on.
Need a motion on this?
Yep.
I'll make a motion to go ahead and do what we gotta do.
Yeah, I'll second that. And that,
Whatever we gotta do here.
yeah.
Get
to
rid of
pass-
them, I guess.
yeah, to pass,
About the tax law, that's what,
yeah, Resolution 2021.
sorry, guys. I had a brain.
Thank you.
Gotta do, we gotta do.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not from the peanut gallery. Hearing none, roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
Yes.
Mochler.
Yes, motion passes.
Gotta keep a little humor in here once in a while.
Well, it was gonna be hard to foreclose on the pile of
Yeah, that's what I
trash.
kinda thought. It's- They're gone.
Lane, are you with us? There you are.
I am here. It's not really a secondary employment. I applied to be on the city's Human Relations Commission. They had some openings, and after I sent in the application, I thought, maybe I should clear this since it's a city commission, and I don't see any conflicts or anything, but I'll let you guys decide, and if you don't want me to do it, whether or not they accept me, who knows, but you know, I can rescind my application if you guys wish me to, so.
I don't have a problem with it.
You got my okay, Lane. You're no more conflicted than the rest of us in that respect, I think.
Personally, I think you'd be a good choice, so.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a city commission, so we'll see what
Yep.
they're looking for, but.
Mhm.
Okay, that's all I had, was just to let you know that, and
Okay,
there shouldn't be any conflicts that I can think of.
sounds good.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. Everybody get to see vouchers and payroll?
Oh, you know what? I didn't send those
Okay.
out and then I thought about it and I figured as busy as this meeting is, maybe you could just approve them next week. So
Okay. The department reports.
and we don't need a motion for those. It's just
Okay.
more for your review.
And then we've got a request from John Twite to use the metal detector on courthouse property.
Yeah, so this individual stopped in last week, asking if he could look for coins and such on the courthouse lawn. And apparently he does this in his travels around the country. And I explained that I couldn't approve of him digging up the lawn potentially. So I would need to pass that through you guys first. So
So he's a detectorist
Yep.
as in public
And he
TV.
did say if he found anything interesting that he would be happy to turn it over to the county for museum purposes or whatever. But again, I just said I needed to run it through you guys since he could potentially be doing digging and with the sprinkler system and such.
I'd say no digging. I don't think this is a good idea.
Yeah, digging's a bad idea.
Yeah.
Basically, on most of the ones that I know of, they do like a trowel if they, and then repat it down. I know I've had a couple of folks do my yard and they did digging maybe, but then it's never noticeable.
Yeah, it just seems, it seems like a liability problem for us. I mean, in the sense that, we do have a water sprinkler system there. But, it'd be the kind of thing that we might want to partner with, the anthropology people, the archaeology people at USD. If this person were to actually, find something, because, we could be much more sure. I mean, I do think I think the digging is a problem, unless we had somebody who really knew what they were doing. And it's a fun project. I love the idea. I'm a real fan of this British archaeology show. And, I think it would be really, really fun because I'm sure there's stuff there. And the W.H. Over Museum and the Austin Whittemore House would be really interested in the outcome. If the detectorists did find something, we might be able to find a partner for him, that would do a responsible job. But to just have somebody who, sort of walks in off the street and wants to dig up the courthouse lawn, meh, not so much.
What do you think?
Nah, we could limit him to a McDonald's fork and spoon, but probably not.
Yeah.
Could limit him to mapping. only.
Yes, exactly. I love that idea, Phyllis.
Over at the Whittemore House.
Well, Bill Randy has done some, just FYI, has been doing some. Bill Randy has been doing some work down below the hill. And he worked in the archaeology department for a long time. And so that's been interesting for us to listen to him. And he's done some programs on what they're doing and how they're doing it. I'm not saying one way or the other how he should do this, but he is somebody that's local and he's retired, but that's a name.
Did he work on the Buffalo Run site then, over the bluff?
That I don't know that they went that far. They were
Okay.
he was working with a college group and doing some minor excavating down below the hill. You know, that you referred to. So, and we did have somebody when they were fixing our house up. They partnered with some archaeology students to do some digging and finding things, and they didn't find any big gold mine. They found a lot of like beat up cans and things, but Bill's name just popped in.
There was a time years ago when.
Microphone.
That would, now Christmas allowed on the yard. So, Richard, your thought that there might be some McDonald's,
Got to turn on the mic.
might not be too far off.
Yeah.
I think you gotta turn it on.
Yeah, my thought was that we'd only allow them to dig with a McDonald's plastic spoon. They couldn't hurt much.
Yeah. But I doubt they're gonna find much since
Yeah.
the whole thing has been brought in as fill. You know, the top 4 feet of dirt.
Yeah.
That's true.
So I think we just gotta.
Yeah, it'd be-
Yeah, I think we ought to pass on this one. Sorry, but. Okay. As a natural dig around the dirt sort of guy, I usually approve of that, but I think we probably shouldn't here.
We make it formal, make a motion.
make a motion to deny that request? Yeah.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
Yes.
Mochler.
Yes, motion passes. Nothing for joint jurisdiction. The next thing on is the building project discussion, but before we do that, we're gonna take a 5-minute recess.
I gotta get up. Yep. Sorry.
It's a thought. It's a thought. Yeah, they were really hopeful they'd find all sorts of interesting things over in the yard of the Austin Whittemore. And it was just, no. I think the students had a lot of fun, but it wasn't anything.
Somehow the name John Dwight rings a bell somehow.
Well, that's a familiar name from the community, I think. There were White kids that were in high school, I think, when.
His phone number was an out of state airport or something, he probably last, so I don't know that he's really based here anymore, but he might be from here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that name is familiar. Yeah. Yeah. So.
What do you think if they found a gun putting in his area?
For the benefit of anybody that just joined the meeting, the board is in a 5-minute recess right now.
Could you repeat the last thing you just said? I couldn't hear it.
Hey, Tom, it's Lane. They are on a 5-minute recess before the courthouse discussion.
This way, over
Thank you.
at least been 3 or 4 reoccupations. Of course, it was perfect. Yeah. It would live down on the bank. A lot of coffee.
Did they tell you that?
A lot of deer, a lot of balls. And.
Well, you hear a scream and then you hear a shout or something.
Together.
And I like to
Over
just
a
like,
180
"What the heck, Ellen?" Yeah. And if it was a little longer, there's more screaming, more counting, I'm like, well, has to get back. You have anything else, right? And I said, well, but I don't wanna go down there and have that thing fly out the door at me. She goes, I'll go first, and I'll play if it goes clear. It's so funny. I can see everyone down, and she came back, she's like, it's pretty quiet, I think whatever it is gone. And so then I went down, and then Samantha came out, and I'm like, did you guys have a bat? She goes, no, they're watching the basketball game. She's like,
Yeah.
It was so funny. We thought there couldn't have been anything else. Oh, yeah.
I hope so. At least get close to that.
Yeah. And I'm like, I did. Funny. Funny. I'll never forget that story. Hi. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
No, that's her first name. Her mother was Mary. Her name is Mary.
Your clock's a little off over there.
Yeah.
Slightly. I didn't, looking at that, I go, "Oh,
We're moving right along.
I thought so too. I thought, man, we're gonna be out here. Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got that.
Ready? Okay, we're back in session. Building project discussion, resolution 2021-12, resolution declaring necessity and expediency of issuance of general obligation bonds and calling an election. Who would like to start? Oh, before we start, sorry, I'm going to limit public input to 3 minutes per person. So that should give everybody ample time to speak. Bob, would you like to?
Well, I will just start to bring you up to date that our facility planning committee, as you know, had the listening meeting on the 18th of March. I sent the commissioners and the committee a summary of that meeting. And after that public meeting, our committee met again. And I'd like to let you folks know that the committee has reaffirmed its original recommendation to build a brand new facility for the jail, the law enforcement people, the courts, and general government. On kind of a personal comment, if I may, what you're really doing with this resolution is keeping this process moving. It's simply a part of the process. Nobody's going to write a multi-million-dollar check this morning. What you're doing is deciding what the funds are going to be, what they're going to be for, what the final decision is going to be for the voters. So again, in my personal observation, this is simply another step in the process. It's going to end up in front of the voters.
We'll take public input if you'd like.
Is this for the public?
Yep.
Yeah, Dan's gonna speak first.
I just wanted to visit with you about compromise and about how compromise can work to do a lot of good things in our democracy. The big thing with compromise is getting public support. And to get public support, you have to have a lot of information out there and have citizens be able to make decisions. And public support is obviously going to be needed in this bond election. So the way I understand it, it's going to be up or down. You know, it's yes or no on the vote. So you got to be really careful how you write that resolution and what's included in it. And everyone that I have talked to, I haven't had a single person say abandon the courthouse or build all new elsewhere. So the option that seems to work for most people that I've talked to is build the new jail and law enforcement center. That is needed. It makes most sense to have it nearby or on the property here. That makes the most sense and it would be handier for the law enforcement people. But moving the offices out of the courthouse in order to then remodel this building has got a big price tag on it. I was told that 3.6 million, this came from the architect Thursday night, he said that 3.6 million to move the people out, remodel a building, and then move them back in over a period of 2 or 3 years. 3.6 million could be better spent on this site by remodeling the law enforcement center. And I can't even believe you could spend that much on it. Move some of the offices over there, treasurer, auditor. Then you wouldn't have to move everybody off site when this was remodeled. It would save several $1 million for sure. And then, of course, again, please fix the roof and do that soon. That would be a real sign of commitment to save this building. Regardless of what you decide on other things, make a commitment to fix this roof and save this building. And remember, compromise. In order to get the vote that you want, there's going to take compromise to do that. So think carefully about compromise in this process. You've got a tough job to do, and I wish you well. Thank you.
Thanks. Tom, I think you were next.
It would be good if each would introduce themselves. I know that was,
That's Dan Christopherson.
yeah, I know. Went blank for a moment, but
Tom, would you like to
Am
go
I
next?
listening? You want me to go ahead then?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. My name's Tom Sorensen. I'm a longtime resident, native of Vermillion, as you know. I am speaking for myself only, and I want to thank you for your work on all of this, all of you, and your committee or facility group or whatever it's called, and for this opportunity to address publicly this matter of countywide concern, our handsome historic courthouse building, which we are told should be saved aside from whatever other needs should be addressed and paid for by the voters. Mr. Fuller informed me recently that the Clay County State's Attorney and the attorney for the bonding company would work together on the wording of any ballot matter resulting from today's meeting. Your guidance is important as the body that has delegated to others the work of the researching, but the options given on the ballot to the voters are very important. There must be choices that are meaningful to all the public, not just those county and other employees who must work in the structures that you, on the behalf of the voters, decide to build. It has now become a priority to many of us following this process leading to today's meeting that we, the voting, tax-paying people, hear or somehow receive some assurance that all other wishes, hopes, plans aside, do you, Commissioner, favor keeping this important building in Clay County's rich history? Please provide an answer at some point before the election. You may not be aware that a great display of photos was mounted on the walls at the law school that serves the entire state of South Dakota, here in Vermillion. It shows pictures of the courthouses in all the counties of South Dakota, including ours. It's history and historic buildings that are meaningful to people. So please go to campus and view that sometime and get an appreciation for these wonderful courthouses. We don't want ours to simply become a photo. You may not also be aware that numerous times I have been a judge behind the bench and in the past represented clients as an attorney. More currently, though, until COVID-19 and the pandemic took over, I served as a judge for teen court, as do some other attorneys from the Vermillion area. These cases are confidential due to young ages, and it provides a process of sentencing by a jury of their peers for defendants as an alternative to juvenile detention. It's sponsored and operated by the Boys Club and Girls Club, which is headquartered in Yankton. It is gratifying and meaningful to see and watch these young teens in awe of the decor of this actual courtroom and of the building and the hallways. And they maybe should ignore the burned out light bulbs in some of the places, but it is a showcase within the education of young teens and their parents or families. So there are many questions about this issue and how it has proceeded. One is whether this commission has asked the city government if it will again pay for and use part of a new structure for law enforcement, which we all know is needed, including the jail. But honestly, isn't this law enforcement part of the puzzle really a separate issue from the courthouse building? The two could be decided separately. But number one, yes, we need a new jail and law enforcement center. Number two, yes, we need to keep the historic courthouse building. Other questions can be worked out, designed to meet the needs of all the officers and the staffs. So please demonstrate clearly, and if you truly feel this is the right thing to do, that our courthouse should be kept and fixed and that a new law enforcement center can otherwise be built. Various sources paid for a similar structure in Vermillion. It took only $5 million to go inside that solid rock structure called Old Main and look at it now. It was and is historic and will stand long after we are all gone. Our courthouse is in that same category. Do the right thing. Show us you seriously want to take care of it and preserve our courthouse as we move forward with the new law enforcement center. You got to do what you got to do. I've heard it a couple of times this morning. I also, before I close, I thought it was very interesting to hear of the discussion about even the lawn of the courthouse might be historic, huh? But I guess we won't know now. But I want to also thank Lane Stewart for what I heard, for his interest in joining the City Human Relations Commission, a group that I am proud to say I helped get established. So again, thank you for your time, your thoughtful compromise, and I wish you well. And if I may throw in a little religion, happy Easter.
Thank you. Anyone else?
It looks like maybe Suzanne Skirm has her hand raised on the screen there.
Yes. Sorry, this is Suzanne Skirm. I've been a resident here in Vermillion for over 30 years. And I also think that the courthouse needs to stay. It's part of our heritage, part of our history here in Vermillion. If you look at all the unique old buildings that we have in town, like some of the older houses, the National Music Museum, Carnegie Building, the President's Home for the university, these things are singular. They don't build things like this anymore. And the courthouse is an example, I think, of something that's going to be around for a long time. If you build something new, like the plans that I saw for the new Justice Center and Law Enforcement Center, and don't get me wrong, I certainly support building a new jail and a new law enforcement center. We desperately need those. But why can't we just build that to the north of the courthouse instead of building this huge building? I'm not quite clear why we need such a large structure. I know that the point has been made that we need to plan for the future, but as I say, I've lived here for over 30 years and I have seen very little growth in Vermillion and Clay County in that time. What makes you think that it's going to grow that much in the future? So I'm thanking you for your work on this. I know it's a contentious issue, it's an important issue, but I really hope that you will save the courthouse and use it as the courthouse. If nothing else, save it and use it for something else. But I really would like to see it continue as the courthouse. Thank you.
Thanks, Les.
You know, I just wanted to kind of piggyback in on a lot of this. I think that, you know, this isn't us against you. This is a matter of let's work together and make sure we get something accomplished rather than battle against each other. That's not what we want to do. I think we're all on board, and everybody who has had the opportunity to come to the fairgrounds and see what was there, people that are responding to get-togethers that we also plan to host at some point to help promote the building of a new public safety building. That's just, we're all on board with that. But I think the bottom line now is if we're gonna get something going, and if it absolutely has to be on the ballot in June, and maybe that's something to even think about giving it another year so that people are better informed. I know, Bob, you just held your head in your hands.
It's just about lost.
But I think the bottom line here is making sure that our voters in Clay County are well informed, because no matter what we do, it's going to be a chunk of money. And I'm finding these meetings really interesting, hearing about the bridges, the roads, the upkeep of all of this. But I think as long as there is money available to fix the roof here, to do some basic maintenance right now, because nothing's going to happen in the next year except the roof falling in. But I think we just need to think more, be more conscientious about the fact that we need to work together to make sure that this is gonna happen. You know, that we do get the public safety building going. That's an absolute necessity. And the fixing up of this beautiful building. But I think if we try to jam too quickly down the throats of our voters in Clay County, dump it, build it all new, it's gonna hit a resounding no-go, and then we are back to square one again. I mean, that's just knee jerk of people that we've been visiting with. But my hope is that we can find a good compromise and all work together, because we just want to make this all work for Clay County. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah, he'll be next. Jim Stone's gonna speak first.
You don't realize the value of the structure you have here. They don't build them like this anymore. And if you go into other countries, especially Europe, there's buildings that are 300, 400, 500 years old, and they're still using them. I don't understand why you would even want to move out of this building. I really don't understand it. And this is kind of the feeling I get anybody I talk to, is why do they want to move out of that building? This is an icon in Vermillion, and I hope you people realize this. And that's all I'm going to say.
Thank you. Jerry?
Hello, thank you for letting me take a couple of minutes here. I agree with everything that's been said thus far. I particularly want to say that I was shocked to see the proposed size of the new additions. It looks to me as though it's more than doubling our present square footage. That not only seems extravagant to me, but I really question the need of such a massive increase in square footage. As you know, I did serve on the commission for a few years ago, and I was always proud of our courthouse. I saw, we added 2 or 3 employees during that time, and yes, there was some cramping, but I think that the idea of first stabilizing this building with the new roof, then building a new jail on county property across the street or on this this block, and then as Dan had suggested, moving into the present law enforcement center, moving some offices into that while the rest of the construction takes place. This would save a lot of money. It would address the concerns of historic preservation, which I think are very important. And I think that it also would be something that we could pass, we could all get behind and be able to pass this in a vote. I agree that it would probably be very difficult to pass the present proposal, and if you do put something up for a vote and get a negative vote, then you're not just back to square one. I think you're behind square one, and it's going to be very difficult to come back in any timely fashion and do what we all think needs to be done. So that's what I hope people do, is preserve and maintain the current courthouse and add on a more modest addition on site while maintaining the present public safety center as temporary offices, but also as permanent offices as a way of expanding the public services part of the county government. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else?
This is Alexis Tracy. I'm your state's attorney, and I want to thank everyone for recognizing the need that exists. And so whatever this body decides to address that need, I fully support, whether you choose to spend $54 or $55 million or 41, because doing nothing, obviously, as we have seen, will cost us more long-term, and it's just not what's best for our county. So in my professional capacity, I support whatever decision you come to address that need, whatever the cost may be, and I will do that going forward. What I would tell you is, in my professional capacity as a steward of taxpayer money, and in my individual capacity as a taxpayer, my personal belief is that we unquestionably go with the $41 million option. And the reason for that is that we have other needs in our community that are facing us with schools. And when we look at an additional $15 million, which actually amounts to $18 million when we look at relocation expenses, I simply, as a taxpayer, do not think that that is a good, expensive taxpayer resources. And so I believe that doing that, the only reason to do that is an emotional attachment to a structure that I just personally do not possess to that tune of $18 million. If it's what you choose to do, I support it because it addresses the need. But I would ask you to consider the more cost-effective option. Thank you.
Anyone else? I'm going to close public comment and open it up to the board. And did you have anything to add? Okay. Thoughts?
Do we have any description or a little more detail of why this looks to be the size on the drawings that we've gotten? I don't feel the drawings really show us what we're asking to decide on.
This is Dick Strasberg. I guess maybe I could jump in here. As a consultant to the county, our position is to not take side one way or the other, but provide facts so you can make the decision. A couple of things to consider on the size. If you take the existing courts and the county admin space, there's 24,570 square feet. And on the proposed new would be 29,214. So now if you look at the overall thing, the growth is not in the county, primarily not in the county offices and not in the courts. It's in the LAC and the jail. So I think Andy probably could address, the reason for the projected growth there. But that's just a little information on the square footage.
Okay, does that square footage, where the confusion comes to me is the 24,570 includes Lexi's office and all of the state's attorney.
Yes.
I hate the word assume, but it's all I can do with what I've got here. Would they move into the courts area, the law enforcement area, or stay with county government? And that would depend on the size of each one.
Yeah, I think that the goal on it would be to make it as efficient as we could, and that would be vetted out in the design process. Right now, there's a concept plan, which gives us enough to price it and enough to know the size. But I think that would have to be worked out, during the design process in terms of who sits next to who and And so on, right now it's based on square footages, and it's adding some square footage for things like, making, a jury area that has a restroom that's not just right off of it. And, the ADA accessibility adds some square footages. But actually, in general, the space isn't growing a lot for what's needed for those areas. It's really bringing it just up to today's codes and standards, but it is adding, a considerable amount with the jail and the law enforcement center.
So my understanding that the state's attorney's office would be moving.
Microphone.
This is Wes Pravacek again. I'm just asking, then is the state's attorney's office with one of the designs planning, having that office move into the public safety building? And if so, wouldn't that free up more space here in the courthouse?
My understanding is that our office and the public defender's office space would go with courts. So if they are attached to public safety, then that's where we would be attached.
That would be typical.
Yeah, so I have a question for Andy Howe. And it is about the relationship between, the jail and law enforcement center and the courthouse. And it's, in a sense, it's a trade-off, right? So the committee presented us with two options. One option is build new north of town. The other option is to build on the north side of the courthouse site. If we build to the north, we know we don't have as many space considerations as if we build on the site of the courthouse. Can you talk a little bit about how you think about that decision? It seems to me that there's an enormous value in having the jail immediately adjacent to the courthouse.
Well, I would say that'd be, in terms of adjacent as compared to connected, there's a difference there. Ideally, we would take inmates to court through a secure corridor, secure elevator if it's upstairs, not through the public hallway as we do now. That's the least ideal situation, which is what we have right now. The distance for the most part is all but irrelevant, I think. If it was blocks away or yards away, either way we're transporting inmates. There's been suggested of walking them across the street. Well, I'm not going to walk inmates across the street. If it was across the street, we would load them into the vehicle, drive them across. They're going to be in chains, and there is a lot of risk for escape or other issues if you're going to try to move people on foot that kind of distance. And so it's really not an option. So honestly, across the street or across town is a pretty similar situation to me. Ideally, it's contiguous. Shared wall or straight upstairs would be ideal. Hope that answers your question. If you don't mind, I was gonna comment on the size of the jail that's been brought up a time or two. And one of those being that we need the 44-bed jail that has been proposed. We need that today for our current population. Not that we have 44 inmates, but we need the segregation, the classification options. So we're not housing co-defendants together. We're not housing violent with non-violent offenders. It gets pretty difficult in a small jail. And then you have to have some economy involved in co-housing people too. You don't want a whole bunch of two-person cells, so we could classify them, because then you're not housing people together. And inmates do better in groups if you can. So we really need that today. And if you think that we had an 18-bed jail when this was built and we have a 20-bed jail today, we've certainly had a need for growth. The Klein McCarthy study even recommended that as a need right now. And in fact, they had said that the jail should be 5 times larger now than it is. And And in law enforcement, I think it was 3 times larger. So we need that extra space even as we sit here today. So I hope that answers that. And I'm definitely available if there's any other questions.
Maybe I could just throw out the square footage of the jail and the law enforcement center. Today you have 11,385 square feet, 11,385. And what's proposed is 51,719.
This is a couple of design thoughts of why the total change from the first engineering, building it adjacent or next to the existing courthouse and then creating an L rather than north-south. The one thing I find very disturbing in keeping the courthouse is that little section where the elevators and entrance, to me, that would be one big wind tunnel with no access other than walking half a block. And this is strictly design that would come later, but I found the setup of staying with the courthouse rather disturbing.
I think we'd get into the design on either scenario. A couple things that are just kind of realities of older buildings. And I'm an architect myself, and I do have an appreciation for historic buildings. I'm in an old house myself, and I love old buildings. When I first came onto this project, I read all the reports on it, and I looked at it, and I thought, well, this is a great building. And then as I got into it, I started realizing, okay, this is what needs to be done. And it's unfortunately, these old buildings, they don't build them like they used to. I think someone said that, and that's exactly right. They don't use the materials. They don't use, some of the quality. It's just not there. But a few things that have really changed that are different is, one is just even big picture. We don't build buildings that have these really monumental public space and then kind of cram people in behind the grand corridors. And that's how we used to build courthouses. It's got a grand stairway, grand hallways, which is all wonderful, but it takes a lot of that square footage away from the people that actually, work in the building every day. A few other things is, in renovating these buildings, a few of the challenges we run into are the systems need to be replaced. Mechanical, electrical is downright scary in this building. It needs to be, we can all be thankful it hasn't burned down. I mean, it is in very, very rough shape. So new mechanical, new electrical, it needs a fire protection system and elevators, and it needs more than one elevator to serve as what we need for the court, so you don't have inmates in chains going up the same elevator as jury pools and other public. And then it needs to meet handicap code. So then that requires the most efficient way to do that, and we studied several ways, is to do an addition that would be an elevator restroom addition. Then we'd use the existing elevator shaft for mechanical HVAC ductwork. Because one of the things we run into meet current building code for air changes, we need to get ducts run through these buildings. So we'd use the existing elevator shaft. Plus the existing elevator shaft is in very poor condition. It is, I mean, it's literally crumbling. It's, and I don't know that we could even get, I don't know if it'd be, well, we know it isn't economically feasible compared to building new, but it would take substantial dollars to redo that shaft to put an elevator in it. And we need 2 elevators. So there are a few of the things that we run into that really drive the cost up of renovating this building. It's to meet ADA is a pretty big deal, and that takes a fair amount of square footage. That's probably the biggest single factor this building is lacking in.
Well, so I have another follow-up design question, and that is there a way, if we built a law enforcement and jail complex on site, to safely bring prisoners to the courtrooms? Is there a design option that would allow that to happen? build a law enforcement center on the site, and connect it via secure corridor to the courtroom?
I think the answer on that is yes. And I think what we've proposed is if you keep if we take out the street and expand on site, it would accomplish that.
Okay, thank you. So maybe I'll be brave and make the first foray at a proposal. It's pretty safe to say from the public comment, which has been prodigious over the last few weeks, that I don't believe that building north of town and abandoning the courthouse is viable politically. And so, I think that the committee did its job and provided us with all the information we need. And then they gave us a recommendation. And, I think from the point of view of efficiency and so on, it's the right recommendation. However, it's not the only option. And this community clearly has made it known that a full new building up north will not fly. And I think we learned that from the survey. And I think we've learned that from the outpouring of concern on the part of citizens. I know that some people believe, well, it's just the usual suspects complaining, but I don't think that's the case. And if you go back and read the emails that have been sent to all commissioners, some of these are new residents. Some of these are people who have lived here their whole life. So there are a lot of names there that I never heard of. So who care deeply about the courthouse. My concern is this. If you go back to the first study, and you go back to the first committee meetings, what you can see is that everyone's concerned, everyone's main first concern is the jail. And I would like to see action on a new jail combined with a law enforcement center as soon as possible. And I believe that if we go to bond with a new proposal for everything new up north, we will wind up having to put a smaller proposal on the November agenda. And that's just the way it is. We need 60%. This is not a 50% vote. This is 60% to pass a bond issue. And I don't think we have it. And I think that is the political reality, and that's what we have to deal with. So I would propose thinking about this in phases. Phase one being building a new jail and law enforcement center on the site. And at the same time, putting a new roof and doing what needs to be done to stabilize the courthouse. Water does more damage than any other kind of wear on a building. And, I think that Andy's video and his tour have persuaded me that the building, whether we keep it or, sell it, no matter what we do with that building, it needs a new roof and tuck pointing and stabilization now. So I think, if we think of that as a first phase and then have a follow it with a transition phase where we can move, the law enforcement staff and the inmates to their new facility, creating space in the existing facility, build an addition at that time for stairs elevators, restrooms. So we meet ADA requirements in the transition phase. You know, move administrative staff to the old law enforcement center. And, you know, at the same time, the city actually has some space available that I think we could probably discuss and negotiate something with them. And then finally be able to shift staff to available space, possibly in City Hall with their agreement, but you know, in the law enforcement center, and then you know, renovate the courthouse and do the kind of renovation and reconfiguration that it needs. You know, I'm very concerned about the plumbing. The electricity, I mean, I've lived in old houses for most of my life, and I've lived with a lot of very, very scary electricity. And, you know, it's true, it's scary, but it's also, as long as you don't mess with it, you know, as long as you don't try to change anything, it's probably safe, at least for the near term. So I think you know, the advantages of phasing it in this way would be first, you know, the minimal cost of relocation, I think would save a lot of money. It resolves the most critical part of the problem first, which are jail conditions. It makes passage of the bond issue almost certain. And that is the main reason for proposing it. And I'll add one more thing, which is that what about a third of the children in our county are eligible for free lunches. These are families that don't have cars. They're also the families that use the courthouse most. A great many of low-income individuals live very close to downtown, you know, to the west of the courthouse. And for them, it would be a significant disadvantage to have to go way to the north for one set of services and then go downtown for a separate set of services at the Community Connection Center by leaving administrative offices on the same footprint. You know, I think it is a service to those families. It also keeps the jail and the courts connected in a safe way, keeps the police and the sheriffs in one place. You know, I looked at the difference in the mill rate, and, you know, it looked like it was about $50 per 100,000 in property value. So it, you know, on an individual taxpayer basis, it's not insupportable, right? It's not insufferable. I think it's reasonable. And, you know, finally, I use as my precedent, you know, something many people have mentioned, and that is Old Main, which is a really spectacular building. And, you know, I think if we go for renovating the courthouse, you know, we first of all can pass the bond issue. And second of all, like Old Main, I think we would have something very special. So that's my proposal.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
What's your proposal then, Betty?
Oops. My proposal would be to do this in 3 phases. The first phase is what we would bond for now. So right now, we would bond for building the jail and the law enforcement center on site to the north of the building, putting a new roof on the courthouse and tuck pointing. So that would be this bond issue. And we could, if we wanted to, add an addition for stairs, elevators, and restrooms, or we could do that in the next phase. But my main goal here is to get that law enforcement center and jail through the bonding process.
This is Dick Strasberg again. So I get my recommendation on if you were to look at a scheme like that, I would highly recommend that you would do the stair tower and the restrooms with the first phase, do the connecting link. I think that would be a difficult thing to add back. It's about, in today's dollars, it's let's see, it's $5,750,000 to do the renovation of the courthouse. But then we would have the cost escalation to have that, going forward each year. And then we'd have, the soft cost, design costs, and so on, in addition to that.
Okay, so my question would be, what would be, so the building the jail and the law enforcement center on the site, what is that, 39 million?
No, we should work from the 55 million total and then start backing down from that. One thing that I want to make sure everybody's clear on is the cost of moving the courts and doing a rental facility. We put $3.6 million in on that. And the breakdown on that was 22,000 square feet at $4 for moving. We usually budget $2 a square foot for moving out and $2 a square foot for moving in. So that's $88,000. And that's, at this point, I mean, that needs to be refined and look at, but you've got all the county records and so on. You've got a lot to move. Then it was taking a rental facility for 22,000 square feet and at $20 a foot. And the way we got to that is, and I think this one definitely there's room to improve on this, in probably many fronts, but just for the sake of what we did, so how we got to the number. You've got one building in town that's about that size. It's the old Pizza Hut. We took the Pizza Hut, it's $15 a square foot is what they're asking for it. Maybe they'd be less, negotiated. And then we figured there's, maintenance and ongoing, operating costs, heating, cooling of another $5. So we use $20 on that, $20 a square foot. Then this is where the big number is actually building out. If we're going to build out courts, build out everything that's in the courthouse and build that out. We used $100 a square foot, and that's with the goal. That isn't like carpet on the floor. That's the goal of how do we meet the requirements of privacy and security. So you build out enough, the courts enough to do that. So that would be moving out of the existing building. One fact that we've got within this building that's important to note is this isn't the kind of building where we could remodel part of it, now, part of it later. It is move out, got it, power's off, literally got all the electrical, got all the mechanical, most of the ceilings, all that kind of stuff will come down to get the fire protection in. So it's a pretty major project. So there couldn't be occupancy during that time. So I think that's a kind of a reality of whenever it would occur. And then as far as moving part of it into the law enforcement center, I think that's a possibility, although some of the systems are tied together right now. But I got to believe if you're to go this direction, there's got to be a better way than spending $3.6 million. I don't know what it is right now, but there's probably something where you could take, you could substantially reduce that number. There's another building that was for sale that was, I'd have to look at my notes here, but I think it was for sale, a warehouse, it was like 600,000. Could the county buy that and use that and then sell it when it's done? There's got to be a creative way. I mean, the reality of it is you've got a pretty good economy. There's not many empty buildings. There's not really much to consider. But maybe through the city and some other things, there could be a solution on that would cut back that cost. But I think the 55 million, if I were to take it today and say, what would you put as a bond issue on it? I have to do a little math here, but it would be something close to 50 million to do that. It'd be the 55 million minus, I can do a little math here and figure that out. You've got the cost escalation, which is probably the biggest issue, because in our industry right now, we deliberately call it cost escalation because it's so different than inflation. Right now we're in this, I've been in the business 35 years. This is the first time I've seen, spikes in construction costs like we've seen here. It's very dramatic. And we made the assumption when we looked at these numbers is it's not going to stay red hot like it is right now. By the time we'd actually design and bid it, it would be, roughly 9 months or a year from now before we'd be bidding it. Some of that would cool off a little bit, but we assumed an escalation of 3% a year, and historically that's what it's been. So that's a consideration. I mean, if you look at the phasing piece of it, the balance on this whole thing is what makes the most sense from a total outlay of cash to do the scenario of keeping the courthouse. Does it make sense to do it all at once? Does it make sense to phase it out? From a construction perspective, I can tell you it's most cost effective to just do it all at once. Do it all at once and bid it all at once and get the competitive bids, have the same trades work in all the buildings and do it all at once. But that's a very big number. That's $55 million. And we could probably bring that to something under 50 million if we were to do it in phasing and come back. And it wouldn't be the same number to bring it back to renovate. That 5.7, that would get escalated up and it'd be a separate project. So that would probably be, if I were to just guess at that, if it's out, say 3 years out, that would be, I'll do a little math here.
So we have a motion. So I'm waiting. I mean, if we don't get a second.
Well, I think what we need are numbers. And so I'd suggest that, the motion be kind of the scope of the project, a phrase that says the scope of the project, and then an actual number. And I think Dick can give us a pretty good sense of whether phasing makes sense or whether we should put the whole thing out to bond and do it all at once. I mean, I think that's the question that Dick is suggesting. We need the answer to. And it looks like he's working on it.
But I'm still waiting for a second. Otherwise, this motion's going to die.
Well, no, I mean, we don't have Travis, I'm saying I don't think we have a motion yet.
You made the motion.
She made
She
the
made the motion to do the
recommendation.
phases.
I started the discussion off with an idea. And I think, Dick, we don't have a number yet. And we need a number in order to have a motion.
I would suggest that the number would go from 55 million to 50 million. And the reason on that is I think we'd want to design the renovation of the courthouse during the same time we're designing the law enforcement center, the jail, and the courts, because it's all got to tie together when it's done. So I think it makes sense to design the whole worksheet, incur the design costs in phase one, and then you defer the construction on it. And there's logistical issues that will cost money. They aren't millions of dollars, but they're hundreds of thousands. So I would recommend that if it's going to go that direction, it would go to 50 million, knowing that when you come back to do it, that 5.7 is probably half again that number.
Yep.
When you come back and do it as a separate phase down the road.
So then it would be like it would cost $2.5 million more to phase it, despite the fact that we wouldn't have to move people out.
I think it'd be at least that to do it. It'd be yeah, at least that. And I think that the piece on it that's the big variable here is what do you do with in the meantime? I mean, that's the number that the other construction numbers, and we went to subcontractors. We've got good numbers, but on that whole relocation cost of 3.6 million, we don't know that. And we told you our assumptions on it. There's probably a better solution out there that's probably that you could pull back on some of that. But I think what we'd recommend if you're doing it this direction would be have the bond language be up to 50 million. And then we'd work together through the whole process to try and bring that number down, figure out a better solution for what the most cost-effective solution is for employees and the whole relocation effort.
Okay, and that 50 million would include building a jail and law enforcement center on the site that could connect to courtrooms. It would include a new roof on the courthouse.
It would.
Would it include a new roof on the courthouse?
We've got that included in the second phase then.
Okay, and then it would include the cost of moving staff and building that addition for stairs, elevators, and restrooms. So the only thing it wouldn't include would be the cost of renovating the courthouse offices. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yep.
So it would be a $50 million bond issue that would cover a new jail and a new law enforcement center on the site, a new roof, and tuck pointing on the courthouse, building an addition for stairs, elevators, and restrooms, and relocating as necessary administrative staff. Does that sound right, Dick?
I think that sounds right. A caution I threw out there, we do have to acquire private property. And that's always puts a little bit of a question in it in terms of the willingness of the sellers and so on. And we're taking up a street. There's, it's got new fiber optics, recently put in, fiber optics, I'm told. So there's some risk there that would have to be considered.
Okay. Got it. Okay, so that would be my motion then to start. Unless, yeah, and then we can, for discussion purposes, that would be my motion.
So the motion is 50 million, and that doesn't remodel the government offices? Is that
Yeah,
correct?
it covers everything except remodeling government offices, which would happen in a future bond issue. So it would repair the exterior issues on the courthouse.
Okay, we've got a motion.
I have a question though, before I do any
Not-
more.
Well,
Can I do
we
that?
can't do it until we get a
Okay.
motion or a second.
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay, now I've got a motion and a second. Mike?
Okay, my question is that Dick, you said that if it's gonna cost 2.5, you said first that in phase 2, that's when we would do the roof and the tucking?
Yeah, I think, we'd have to work through the details on it. It's 325,000 what we're talking about for a new roof and tuck pointing. We have to work through that. Other things to consider is we've got 210,000 in for abatement, mitigation, and bat removal. We've got a pretty serious bat issue in the courthouse. We've got demolition of the public safety center, which would be in phase 2 for 225,000.
Okay, the other question I have is, okay, so you're saying that, we do the 50 million. And then, but if we come back to do these offices, it's gonna cost us 2.5 times more, you're thinking? Than
I
what
don't know if it's, no, I don't, not 2.5 times more. It kind of depends on when you do it.
Okay.
Because it's, the cost escalation as we go up, it's it's remobilizing the site. You're paying for all the staff of the contractor, again, it really turns it into, really a separate project. And that number, if I were to walk in and say, what does it cost to renovate a courthouse like this? I might throw out a number like $10 million, something like that. And that's, so it's, it would be a bigger number down the road. It might take the 55 million today and might be 60 million, if we did it down the road in 3 years, some number like that.
Okay, so instead of that 5 million that we were gonna use to do the offices, it could be 7.5 million? Is that what you're
I think
saying?
that's right. And then you've got the separate costs, and the biggest issue is cost escalation of what happens over time here right now in construction.
Okay, my problem is I think when you go back to the voters after they've already voted for $50 million, and you come back and say, well, now we want another bond for $7.5 million or something along that line. Then they're gonna say, well, you just got everything you needed. Why do you need this 7.5 million now? That's my problem with it. I think if you're gonna do this, you have to do everything at once. I just don't think you can go there in the phases. I've seen phases of stuff, and what happens usually is you get the first phase done, nothing happens with the second and third. It just doesn't go anywhere because people aren't willing to, and I I'm kind of with that myself. If you got everything the first time, you should have asked for it. Now you're coming back and asking me for more money and gonna raise my taxes again? I don't think that's gonna happen. I'm just
May
saying.
I speak?
So, Mike, I would accept a friendly amendment to the motion.
I don't
think
think
there
we're
is-
there that, I must admit, we haven't mentioned windows, which definitely need totally to replace. We already tried a fix it on those. And I'm in agreement with Manning that if we're to do this, we need to do it all, because coming back will only cost us more.
All right, well, I would be glad then to amend the motion to contract the work into one phase on the site in order to save, what's estimated to be about $2.5 million. On the other side, however, we will have higher relocation costs. But those have already been folded into that 55 number, as I understand it.
Yeah, that's correct.
So in other words, if we're gonna escalate the cost by $2.5 million by phasing it, we're also saving quite a bit of money on relocating staff.
I guess I'm thinking that it's probably a net of 2.5.
2.5 more.
2.5 more, assuming that we would not spend all the dollars on the relocation.
Okay.
And I think, if we worded it up to 55 million, then we figure out a solution of how we don't spend, see if we could peel some dollars off for that relocation, because there's got to be a better solution out there than what we came up with when we were.
So you amended your motion, Betty?
Yeah, so I've amended my motion to make it one phase and to bond up to 55 million.
Do we have a second?
I would also accept friendly amendments.
Again, with the second, just for further discussion. Does
Okay.
that also include, okay, you've got elevators and stairway and structural. How much, safety escape hatches, I don't know, for better or worse, does that give us within the existing courthouse?
That would bring the entire courthouse up to code. It'd meet code in every way with a full renovation.
And the windows are a really big issue for staff and also for heating costs. And does this number include appropriate window amelioration?
Yes, it does.
It does in the plan, yeah.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a second for up to
May I
55.
speak?
So
May I speak?
not right now, Tom.
Well, it's discussion before a vote.
I've closed public input. This is discussion between the commissioners.
Among the commissioners.
Yes. So the windows aren't our problem. It's coming in through the sill, and we've re-insulated and it didn't help. It's coming in through the wall somehow. I mean, we've spent quite a bit of money 5 years ago, 6 years ago, maybe it was, trying to fix the windows, and it didn't help. It's going to be more than just replacing a window to solve that problem. And 55 million, we're going the wrong direction if we think people are going to support 55 million. I mean, the 41 million is hard enough to swallow, but now we're going to ask them for another, 30% on their taxes? In 2 weeks, we're going to have a room full of people already complaining their taxes are too high right now when we do the assessment. I don't know how we ask them for more. And then to get the bond passed is a simple majority of 50% plus one. We don't have to cross the 60% threshold. I would not be in favor of putting a $55 million bond on a ballot.
One suggestion I would have, and this is the architect in me coming out, is if you were going to go with the lower cost, build all new, would it be a possibility to allocate dollars for waterproofing this building, get new roof and tuck pointing it, so it wouldn't deteriorate until there's another potential user that would come along? And one of the things that makes it a little more challenging for the court system to use this building is the fact that we've got to do this addition for the elevators and the stairs. Because for somebody else to come in, let's just say this is apartments or a different use like that, a use that wouldn't require the same level that we do, to operate as a courthouse. But preserving it, the architect in me wants to preserve this building, and that's my personal opinion. It's not my money, so I want to make sure I say it respectfully. But that could be a compromise too, and then actively look for another use that could take on this project.
Mike,
I guess the one thing I want to say is I think that it's came out a lot that us as commissioners, and I'm speaking for everybody here right now, if you object to it, tell me, that none of us want to see, no matter what choice we pick today, none of us want to see this courthouse not be maintained. It's just that we're trying to look at the ideas, and the idea that we didn't want to put a roof on it, that's never been the issue. Or I didn't know about the tuck pointing until just here in the last, I don't know, I think Dick's brought it up one time that it needed to be tuck point. And I didn't know that. So I would be all for to put a roof on it and tuck point it. Because one of the things that's going to happen here is if we decide to build new somewhere else, we're still going to be in this courthouse for at least 3 or 4 more years.
Right.
At least 3 years, probably. And so looking at that, we got to maintain it. And then actually, I think that we just need to figure out here, and what you guys said earlier about Wes and Dan, you both said, let's work together. We need to work together. And if it means that we end up and build something new somewhere else, then we need to work together to find something to move into this building and use it for what it is, and it'll still be the center of town. It won't be a courthouse, but it'll be something else that could be great for the community. And that's where I think that sometimes we lose sight of, that this is not an efficient place anymore for the employees. And I don't know for sure if I can sit here and say, I want to spend $55 million. And I have a tough time with that. $41 million, I'm having a tough time with that, to be honest with you. When we first started this whole thing out, he came to us, he said $12 million, build a jail. Oh, no, renovate the jail, renovate the courthouse. New jail, and renovate the courthouse. I was like, I'm with that. That's not going to be an issue. And then see, it comes back, what was it, 40 or 50? I don't know.
45 million.
And it kept escalating. And I mean, it's like, we just can't do that. We're not like Old Main, beautiful building. I've been in it. But you got to realize there was big donors for that. Clay County doesn't have big donors that's going to donate money to it. Also, they have the whole state paying for it. We got one county paying for it. That's where the issues come in. And the other thing is, if we turn around and renovate this courthouse and move the jail even across the street or whatever, we've actually only got 17 people, as Bob pointed out to me, that are going to still be working in this courthouse. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're maintaining a huge building. We need to figure out which is the best for the taxpayer in Clay County. Alexis pointed out the school wants to build a new school, and that's more money. You keep raising my taxes to the point that I'm gonna have to leave Clay County. I mean, seriously, it gets pretty tough to go to pay all these taxes. So that's my 2 bits.
If I may, just the one thought that keeps coming back to me, I agree with Manning wholeheartedly. it's an extremely difficult decision here. The other part of it too is this community cannot and does not support the museums it has. And that has been number one suggestion for this building in the future, is that it be, you know, possibly a museum. Yes, there's apartments or condos or something else that it could. But the idea of another extremely large, extremely expensive building in the Main Street area being questionable as to what its future is scary to me. I'm totally understand building new, and I understand the time and effort that the committee has put forward and their choice. I, on the other hand, understand all the folks who are screaming, save our courthouse. I'm in a quandary, totally. We have to do a jail. Wherever we build the jail is where the courthouse will be in the future. So whatever we decide to, we need to put together a bond issue that will build the jail and safety center. And as I know it, we need to do it today or hold another meeting to decide within 2 days. And the big question is, what do we do with the rest of the courthouse? Do we stay where we are or do we move? And
Well, Phyllis, that comes down to how much money you want to spend.
exactly.
I mean, if we build a new jail somewhere and law enforcement and leave county administration here, that doesn't get us out of needing to update the courthouse. So it's, the
Agreed.
question is, do we spend the 55 million or do we spend 41 million?
Does the 41 million take into consideration the land costs?
Yes.
Yes, it did.
Okay, I was confused on that.
And now we also have to remember that this courthouse isn't just for Vermillion. This is for all of Clay County,
Yep.
which, I mean, I'm assuming the people in Irene don't have the connection to the courthouse the way the people of Vermillion do. But we're gonna ask them to pay for it. So we have to take them into consideration also.
Where's Mr. Hammond stand? Pick on you.
Part of what I was thinking about here too is that we have a responsibility for this building probably going on 5-10 years. We probably will own this for a long time. We're gonna have that cost whether or not we use it or we rent it to someone else or there's some third use that comes up with it. So we need to be thinking about that part and its value to the west downtown area, that we have to take responsibility for making sure that this value, this anchor of this end of the business district is here. I think going forward, you know, I fully expect that our neighborhood's going to change here. My guess is, you know, a few years down the pike, the lumberyard's going to want to move. You know, they'll probably end up want to run out by Runnings where they have room to actually load and unload a truck daily, those sorts of things. There are other, the rest of our neighborhood is going to be changing also as far as the residential makeup here. So I do think that we need to add those thoughts into the equation here. I also really worry about the load of that extra 15 million or so onto our citizens that are having a hard time making ends meet now. We have a some of the highest poverty rates as a county in the Midwest, essentially, not just in South Dakota. And the idea of loading extra property taxes on our property owners, as well as, it gets passed through to renters also. It isn't just the people that own property that end up paying for it indirectly. So I've really been torn by those two parts that this has been a grand old building to me too. It's I understand some of the problems with restoring and keeping old buildings going. I was probably a key figure in getting the music museum moved into its present building. It had key structural issues that they thought they had that when I examined it, didn't have key structural issues. It looked like it did. If you went into the basement, you walk from the wall of the building to the center, the concrete was broken and tented up by something like 4 feet. But, sounds bad, but the entire building had settled uniformly as a group, as a unit, straight down. I recommended that they get the soils engineer and look at it. It was easily fixed and cheaply fixed. But, so, I am an old building fan myself. The couple of houses that I've restored in town that I understand that it costs a lot more to restore than to build new. I've made that decision 3 times now, and financially lost 3 times, I guess, is the one way to look at it. So, yes, I'm torn also, and those are the thoughts that have not been expressed that I'm wrestling with here.
I'm going to throw out just an idea here, and it's just because I've seen it done before, not at this scale, but something that could be. I just throw it out there for just pure conversation, kind of giving the challenge that everyone's facing here, is to consider doing something that would take a fund, make it $42 million, and have $1 million fund that would go towards preserving the courthouse. And then have it so there's, maybe even some kind of a deed restriction that it can't be torn down. And I'm not sure if the $1 million, I pulled that out of the air, but some number to preserve the courthouse, because it's financially, in this case, it's substantially more to keep it, but to do something that would, go towards the renovation cost of it, and I'd recommend you go with the tuck point and the roofing. Do that now, because you're going to be there for several years, no matter what you do, if it's voted in or out. But then have it that there's a fund that's set up that would go towards somebody else, taking it over, or possibly, if they don't take it over, it preserves it. So I just throw that out there, and I'm not sure the $1 million is right, and I'm not sure how voters would feel on that, but that might be a compromise.
I've been thinking of that myself, is that I was thinking the range of, since there's take say 1/4 of the difference between the 2 proposals, 41 to 46, and have a couple of million in there that would go to making needed key improvements outside of the tuck pointing and the roof. It would be, it'd probably be electrical and sewer.
One of the challenges of this building, we wrestled with this in a big way with the architects and contractors, is can we phase into this renovation and do what you're suggesting to, phase in the electrical, phase in. And what we concluded is, given what is needed in this building, it's just one of those buildings. It's very difficult to do that, because it's, just putting new electrical, you're tearing up all the walls to do the electrical. It needs new plumbing. And I mean, it's kind of like you got to like open up all the walls and fix the problems, or don't touch it at all, because you got it like mechanical and electrical, they go together. And from a building code perspective, getting a fire protection system, and so we really studied that. But I think the thought that could kind of lean in this direction is maybe set it up as an escrow fund for the must-do improvements over the next years, and then have it go towards reducing the cost that someone else would have to renovate and preserve the history of it.
I've got a question on where legally would we stand, or would the public stand if we go with building new, where they could set up a courthouse foundation, which could start to bring in private funds for the future of the courthouse. Anyone have an idea on that? I believe as a county, we can't do that, but with all of the historic preservation people out there that are screaming to keep the courthouse, do they have the option, or will they have the option if we maneuver somehow?
Can the chairman of your committee make a comment about that?
Yes.
I would really encourage you, whatever dollar amount you settle upon, to investigate thoroughly, and maybe even hire a professional to do it for you, to investigate any and all possible sources of funding, be it foundations, be it federal, be it state. I would encourage you to visit with the development company down on Main Street and see if those folks can find a way to help pay for this thing. You don't have a dollar amount yet, or a commitment, firm commitment for dollars by the city. And I really, really encourage you to, if you pass your resolution today, contact some group, some professional, local, state, national, whatever it happens to be, and start digging for the dollars to help pay for this.
Could you add to that?
And we've done that too, Bob.
I'm not aware of it.
We've had the USDA.
Nate, add to that?
Nobody, I can't hear anybody. We can't hear anybody.
I will have asked. I don't want to speak out of turn, but is there a specific question to that?
Yeah, microphones are not on. I can't.
Oh, sorry.
hear what anyone's saying.
Thank you, Betty.
Me better. Nate Welch with Vermillion Area Chamber and Development Company. Did you have a specific question with that, Commissioner?
Do you have some input you could help us with those questions, those funding questions, grant questions, other development type things?
Yeah, just off the top of my head, I can tell you that we have a resource that we've been contemplating for foundation grant searching that for a 5-year contract, I believe it costs us about $10,000. We have held on doing that type of thing, but I know that there are systems like that I think would be very possible for us to start engaging in that type of conversation and question. And if the historical, and I'm not offering it officially in this moment, but just again, off the top of my head, if the Historical Society did not have the capacity of being able to receive those funds, our 501c3 is a setup entity that could take that and manage it and to be able to direct it to any of those with that interest. So I do see a lot of really great possibilities. I have to comment, I really do think that type of a concept of a million or a couple million really could help tip the scale of conversations that have already, have been had of ideas. And if you're talking of being able to have the ability to be able to preserve the building with that type of fund, whether it be an endowment, a managed fund or something, I think there's a really neat possibility. So just to give you an idea, I could set up a contract for $10,000, not to the VCDC. I know that there's we've looked at a service like that where we can then go in and we could offer that to the community and to any of the entities that want to manage that interest in the future of this building.
I believe I supported that proposal about 10 years ago, didn't I, Nate?
It was 7 years ago, Phyllis, but Madam Commissioner, but yes, you did. I proposed it. I think it was actually the second month I was on my job. I didn't have as much pull back then.
One thought that.
Yeah, it was my fault. I couldn't sell it yet.
Yep, well, I support it now because there's so many of us could use it for so many issues.
You think you got pulled now?
No, in fact, I think I've.
Anyways, a thought that just came to mind for the courthouse, which people have been screaming about for quite a long time, is this building could be a decent boys and girls club. And it would take addition of maybe a gym in the back, but that's a whole lot cheaper than what we're proposing. Just a thought for future use. And that might, and my proposal on foundation, I was talking about setting up a foundation to receive money. Yes, there are monies out there. They're hard to find to ask for money, but using the VCDC, I've forgotten the term for your 501c3, but using that as a depository for fundraising for the courthouse future.
Yeah, the unfortunate situation here is that it's just that the existing courthouse doesn't suit just the architecture of it, the physical layout on it. It doesn't suit real well for today's courthouse. That's what it comes down to. Is for today's, it's just an expensive. It's expensive to take this building to keep it a courthouse. There might be some other uses. Is there anything with the college? Is there anything like that that could be that's probably already been vetted through by the committee? But I sure see the situation when you got a pending school need, and you've got this at the same time. That makes a very difficult decision. You'd sure hate to have that just the timing of both needs that happen to be occurring at the same time. If we look at this on a big picture thing, cause the fate of this building, to not be preserved.
There is a third of the Main Street improvements.
Yes.
Okay. That some of us will be.
A lot of competing interests on these dollars.
So this is Alexis really quick, and I don't know for what it's worth if you want to condition whatever resolution you end up presumably voting on today for, I think that the proposed language in the resolution that's been put out there is to specifically identify improvements and allocate the resources. And so I'm struggling a little bit to make sure that that's the route we're going. I do think that Betty's amendment contemplates the 55 million and updates to that extent and renovation. What I would tell you as it pertains to this thought of what to do long-term, I think that's a discussion that can continue to be had. A quick search of statute indicates in SDCL 6-14-1 is creation and transfer of an endowment fund. The governing body of a political subdivision of the state may by resolution create an endowment fund. And then it goes on to talk about some of that. But I think that's I don't think that's something that's, I think that's a discussion long-term of looking into and not, because we want to flesh out what all of those options are.
Any idea what types of expenditures those endowments could fund?
So that section of the code only has 2 statutes in it, and 614.2 goes on to say spending the interest earned from the revenue in an endowment fund created pursuant to 614.1 may be spent by the governing body of a political subdivision for any legal purpose. The principal in any endowment fund may be expended by the governing body by resolution after a public hearing called for that purpose. I would say as long as you own this structure, you have an obligation to, maintain that, particularly if you're going to be doing anything with it. So, and just from a standpoint of maintaining what you own, I think there's a desire to do that. So throw that out there.
Any further discussion on the up to $55 million? Hearing none. So this would be to put 55 million on the ballot. Roll call.
Hammond,
No.
Manning,
No.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
Well, it's a tie and Travis can't vote, so I can say yes, but
What do you mean I can't? Did she say I can't vote?
oh, I thought you had to abstain.
Not on this.
Not on this.
Oh, not on this, okay. Sure, thanks a lot. Well. I'll say no.
Mochler,
No. Motion fails.
Okay, let's craft something. The other option was for 41 million, Dick.
Yes.
If we asked for a bond issue of 44 million to fund a new complete public safety courthouse area offsite is proposed in 4, and reserve the remaining 3 million plus for renovation of this courthouse. Can that work, Dick?
Yes, I mean, we need 41 to do the proposed project. And what I would suggest is you designate it so it gives you flexibility. For example, if we spend less on it, there could be more put into the courthouse or other things, and for renovation.
Correct.
But yes, I think that's correct.
Because actually in the last few weeks, I've noted a few public buildings that have come in well under bid cost and engineer's estimate costs. So it's possible for lightning to strike and to help us there. And that's what I would expect or hope that would happen, is that if we did come in under, that we could be free to use that to maintain our owned property.
May I make a suggestion for language that would add any funds not spent on renovation of the existing courthouse would be formulate the beginning of a ongoing foundation in support of the courthouse.
Phyllis, my concern about that is, I like the idea of a courthouse preservation endowment fund. The best use for buildings is often recycling them into needs that the county has and or residents have. And one possibility, of course, is always, condominiums or housing. And what I'd like to see is the broadest ability possible to keep that building in use, which could be a nonprofit, but it also would be possible for a sale of the building to occur, to somebody who wanted to create downtown housing out of it. And obviously I would prefer that, it be used for its present functions, but and updated, but that not being possible at this point, so the economics of the situation for anybody who wants to do anything with that building is going to be the costs of stabilizing the building and doing a total renovation. If this fund can be used to make that a more attractive option to recycle the historic building, that would be good. So I guess I just like to keep the purposes broad and not entirely nonprofit. I mean, it'd be
No, I
great.
didn't say nonprofit, and basically, to me, the foundation should be for possible any building in the county, but the courthouse comes first priority.
Yeah, and really, I think what the county's goal should be at this point, other options being foreclosed, the county's goal should be to transfer ownership of that property to an entity that will make it useful to the community members. And that could be a nonprofit use, but it also could, I mean, it could be housing. I mean, that would be another possibility.
You know, we've already got $1 million that we set aside for the maintenance already.
Right.
So instead of making, let's give the million. I totally agree with early what we talked about is not even this million wouldn't be a part of doing the 325,000. Leave that all separate. But we could put $1 million towards it instead of making it 44, make it 41 yet to do the building. We got $1 million here that we could put out there.
Do the roof of that?
No,
Okay.
no, we're gonna do the roof separate from this. This $1 million will go, instead of your 44, we're gonna go 41, plus the $1 million here will go towards the maintenance of the building in the future.
And what Dick say, 325 or 350,000 to roof it and
That'll
tuck
be
point it?
besides that.
But I mean, of the million that we've got setting aside, I mean, we don't even have to wait for a bond on that.
No, I know, but I'm just saying that we can set $1 million aside towards future maintenance past the 325,000.
Yeah, 325 was for tuck pointing.
No,
Is
I
that
think-
right, Dick?
No, it's
Yeah,
for
that's roofing and tuck pointing, yes. that's
Oh,
right.
that's
with
both?
both.
Okay.
So I mean, we'd still have $1 million for it. That's all I'm. Because that's something I had thought about. Actually, Dan and I talked about it kiddingly one time, but he wanted a lot more money than I'm willing to give him. But he would say they'd take it for, and I think this is the right avenue to go. I really honestly do. I think we need to set some money aside for it to try to get something in the future. And like Betty said, we don't know what's coming down in the future. Maybe somebody will come in and another nonprofit organization will want it and say, hey, great, we'll help you out. Here's you got this to work with, to start with. That's
Oh,
correct. That's what
yeah.
I'm getting at.
Once people realize that we're serious about if we were gonna move out, then more opportunities will
Yes.
arise. I mean, people aren't gonna
Nate's
get
got another
excited
thought?
about a maybe.
You got another thought, Nate?
Well, I appreciate asking. I appreciate Commissioner Manning's comments on that. I would actually just encourage, if you do think it's possible on that 44, I think that 3 million puts you in a different ballgame of the future of this building,
Yes.
whether that be options like Betty had mentioned. And so if you do think there is truly a stomach for that, and again, I'm not speaking amongst the passion that those in the Historical Society do, but I have just as much passion when it comes to restoring and preserving our buildings downtown as well. And I think if there is a stomach and a capacity and a belief that you think you can do it, I would really encourage you to consider keeping that added 3 million that you put in there, as well as the million that Mike mentioned. I think it will show the commitment of the commission for the future of this building, and it will put us in a different ballgame for options.
Yes, I'd launch into a commercial for the Cherry Building in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, that my wife's family owns. And it's, I always think back to that when I think about further uses of this building. And I'd encourage you, especially Nate, to take a look at the Cherry Building in Cedar Rapids, and you'd be, it's quite a success story for renovating a rundown factory building in a rundown neighborhood, and the entire neighborhood's turned around now. It was a key central brick that they built the entire neighborhood back to something that the entire town comes down to now.
I think we could have that future as well.
Yeah.
So is that your motion?
Is that a doable motion that we would accept option 4, 3? What's our correct option number?
I think maybe we just state it out instead of using the option number, just state, because
Okay,
I
that'd
think
be
in the
the
resolution, it has to go
41
in that way.
The $41,000 new site option,
No.
41
I
million.
like you better.
Yeah,
I
I'll go
like
for
you a
it.
lot
I'll go
better.
for it, yeah. Sorry. Okay, thank you. 41 mil. Go ahead with the new site option at 41 million with the addition of a $3 million renovation fund for improvement and upkeep of the present courthouse building.
Can that kind of language be a part of the
It'll just be up to 44 million.
Okay. But
Do we have to add something to that though, that says somewhere along the line until if somebody purchases the building, that money goes with them or whatever? You don't have to, do you?
no,
Shouldn't have to. Okay. I'm just.
And I'd sort of suggest that you keep it a little bit flexible, knowing that, you know, the design of the new courthouse jail complex is, there'll be a tug of war for dollars. And if we save money, we could use it, or if it goes over, we could use it. Example on that on Minnehaha County Courthouse or County Jail that we just completed, 46 million. Now that one happened to come in under budget. We're about $1 million at the end of the day under budget.
yeah, the resolution would be for the 44 million is what I intend anyway at this point. But
yeah, so
that
keep it
fleshing
flexible.
out is to know what it was about for everyone here.
I'm waiting for a second.
I'll second it.
So can I,
Get lost in the interim. Mhm.
I just want to make sure, as I look at resolution language, I mean, how it reads right now is whereas Clay County, the county hereby finds it necessary to pay for the, and you have to define what that is, which then qualifies as the improvements, if so approved by the voters. So my understanding at this juncture would be that the language to be included there would to pay for the construction. I mean, I don't know if anyone wants to chime in on this, but construction of a new jail, public safety center, and courthouse facility located off-site and government services.
Do we have to say offsite at that point then?
Oh, yeah.
We do, I suppose, yeah.
Plus, and I know you guys probably aren't gonna like this, but I think to define it for the voters as to what they're voting on, minor renovations to the current facility. I mean, I want a qualification of some sort to the minor, because I think it may be misleading to people who are voting that they're voting for renovating this entire establishment, and that's the $55 million option. So I want to be a little cautious on how we phrase that and what we define as improvements, because then you go on to read down below and it becomes a little more clear. Declaration of necessity, issuing its general obligation bonds in an amount not exceeding 44 million.
How about if we said the stabilization of the currently owned courthouse facility?
Dick, I put the words right in there.
No.
We're gonna do that no matter what.
Okay.
We're gonna do that.
Yeah,
That's,
we
that's
already
a
set
given.
$1 million aside.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's gonna happen.
People are talking without mics.
Okay.
Sorry, Phyllis.
So what was the language just proposed? I couldn't hear it.
I mean, I can offer some things up to you guys, but I would kind of like that to come from you, because without going up to take the board off the wall to see exactly what it says, and if you give me a minute, I can do that, but because there's two different spots where you have to define what the purpose of that money is going to be used for.
Yeah, so one way of saying it would be the second part of it, Alexis, I think your language is perfect. But the second part of it, we could say, and preservation of the current courthouse for future uses for the good of the community.
That's pretty broad.
I think keeping it real simple, like, for instance, saying stabilization and preservation of the current courthouse structure. Keeping it pretty simple is important, I think. Because this is what's gonna go in the papers, I understand, announcing the bond issue.
I think that would give you the most flexibility, because let's just say there's a private developer that comes along that wants to do housing, and they're going to go for the historic tax credits, and they're going to go for everything they can. This would be just part of their project, having it so it could be used for something like that. It would give it that flexibility. I'd also suggest that the language isn't just for the construction. I see it as a little broader for design and construction and related costs or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need 4 million to do the structural integrity of this building?
Basically, that was to have leeway for both projects.
If we run over bid on our new structure, then we've got a little bit of money to work with.
We can't go over.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm just wondering how we're going to explain to the taxpayers the extra 4 million.
sure. Well,
I think it was extra 3 million, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, we've already got $1 million, so we're going to spend that too. So it's $4 million more of their money.
So are you suggesting then, Travis, that we have a second resolution allocating that $1 million for the stabilization and preservation of the courthouse?
That's our.
No,
No.
no, I'm just, what I really wish was we were just doing the 41 million and take the $1 million we've set aside and use that on this courthouse.
And I disagree. I think we go for the 44 just because there are potential years in between to structure the language so we are not required to spend it all on the existing courthouse, but that it would be available for future construction needs or preservation needs.
Yeah, but people aren't going to vote for us to have a bank account.
Well, but I think they will vote for preservation of the courthouse.
Maybe some members of Vermillion.
Well,
Once
that's
you get outside the city limits, because everybody keeps talking community and they keep talking Vermillion. We've got a very big area that's not Vermillion and pays 55% of the property taxes in the county. And to take more from them, they're going to have a problem.
So I had some concerns about this, but this is not my area of expertise, and just consulting with their bonding authority, those concerns are valid about whether or not what we're resolving to put bond funding towards can actually be that 3 million, whether we can do that. Because when you look at SDCL 7-24-1, it talks about providing for buildings or buildings occupied by such county for courthouse, office, or jail purposes. And if they're inadequate or wants thereof or unsafe by reason, et cetera, we have an obligation to erect suitable building or buildings and so on and so forth. If we're contemplating setting aside $41 million to erect those suitable new buildings, then the maintenance of this building becomes simply for property owned by the county. And I'm just concerned that what you're allocating those bond funds for, whether you have the legal authority to add that additional 3 million in. Now, you do have an obligation to maintain this facility, particularly for as long as we're going to be in it. But I think that just becomes I don't want to say double-edged sword, but kind of catch-22 to this is when you're allocating funds to go establish those suitable buildings and you're saying that, then you're contemplating abandoning this structure from being those office buildings. I think you're squarely within your right to take the 1 million you've allocated already and pulled aside to maintain this establishment. I just think
Something
that's
else, Lex, I think that along those lines is the bonding, they'll encumber a building. So they will literally, they will be on the title. They will, as a debt holder, they will have whatever property where the dollars are spent. So I think you bring up a good point on that.
We also have the option, not that I want to do it, but we can opt out a year at a time if there was things that arose at that point. And I guess I'd rather do that than just build a bank account.
I have no interest in just building a bank account.
Can't hear.
I want to make sure that the building is taken care of.
Is your mic on?
It is.
Go ahead. Sorry about that. I leaned back
Yeah.
too far.
Yeah. you're back.
I just said that I'm not interested in building a bank account. I'm interested in preserving a building.
Correct. Agreed. Thank you.
So what you're saying, Lex, is that we really can't set $3 million aside or $3 million aside. We've already actually got to maintain the building anyhow because that's our responsibility because we still own it.
Right, and just the purpose of what this resolution is designed for and your obligations. And so if you look at the statutory authority for that, I just don't think you have the statutory authority to do that.
But Lexus, we do have the statutory authority to do the new roof and the tuck pointing under the bond.
We've already stated we have $1 million we are spending on the roof and the tuck pointing, so it's not under the bond.
No.
Yeah, well, no, what I'm saying is that it is legally possible to put that $325,000 in the bond because it is to fix a building that is currently used and will be used for the next 3 years for the county. And then we can take that other $1 million and put it in a stabilization fund, in a preservation fund for anything that comes up over the next few years until we can convey that property to a responsible owner. I would also like to see a historic preservation covenant on that property.
Okay, but the only thing is we've already actually got that. We have to maintain the building no matter what, because we still own it. So I don't think we need it in the bond at all. The bond should sit on itself for what we're going to use it for, to build a new. If that's what's decided to build a new facility, the 41 million should stand on its own. And that $1 million that we have put aside, we're going to use it for maintenance anyhow. Because maintenance is going to be something we're going to have to maintain. And I know what you're saying. And until this property gets to somebody else, if that's the case, down the line, we have to maintain it to the best of our abilities. That's our responsibility, correct?
Yes, and so this is Alexis again. I felt more comfortable rolling that in, if you will, to the cost when we were identifying a situation where we stayed on site. So when you're identifying that you are renovating this structure because we're going to stay on site, I think that's one thing. I think when you're identifying that an option and funding an option that's going to take all of that off site, I mean, yes, you have an obligation to keep the property up, but I think that falls under a whole different statutory scheme. And now we're looking at 725.3 or 3.1. Anyway, the county's general obligation to maintain properties and buildings and structures. But I think that's separate and apart from this issue.
So you're telling us that we're already in trouble because under the new site option, number 5 is to do existing courthouse exterior maintenance and repurpose the property. Is that what you're telling us?
Well, and I guess, so option 5, I look at this as 3 options. Well, 4 if you include doing nothing.
No, this is component of the new site option.
Yeah.
Number 5, the 5th component, the first is to build a new jail offsite. Second component is the law enforcement center. Third component is the courts. 4th is government services offsite. And 5th is existing courthouse exterior maintenance. That would be roof and tuck pointing is my understanding is. So you're telling us that we're already in trouble on this bond issue to include that?
Well, I'd feel more comfortable now, but I'm going to defer to a greater expert than I.
Okay.
All right, so
That's
Tom,
already part of the system.
so Tom Grimmin with Collier Securities, the bonding folks. I'm not an attorney by trade, but I've dabbled in this for a number of years, 29 to be exact. So my concern was this discussion about the $3 million maybe going for future development or helping whoever decides to take. That's what I've heard. And I was scared about that because I don't think you can, and I'll just come out and say it, I'm not going to legalese it like Alexis is doing. I don't think the South Dakota law allows you to do that. I don't think it allows you to do that. I could be wrong. Someone prove me wrong, please. But what you're talking about, sir, is projects for this facility. You can designate projects for this facility and put that in the bond issue, which it sounds like it already is in the $41 million. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah. As long as you are designating the projects. The 3 million sounded like we don't really have any projects for it, but we're going to put 3 million into it just so we have this kind of this cushion. And I don't think the law allows for that. If you were talking about $3 million and you had a list of projects for those $3 million, I'd say, you're fine, let's bond for that. But I don't see that in that $3 million talk that I heard in the last 15 minutes. Yeah, that's why I came over here. So these projects here identified in the $41 million, part of the project being identified, you can do them.
Yeah, I was thinking in terms of that it would take probably in that range to do the other parts of project that we'd need to do.
Closer to the mic, please.
The electrical improvements, the probably drainage around the outside and sewer and water that wasn't included in this number 5. So I was bumping it for that is actually what the intent was.
So then to piggyback off that, that's Alexis again. I think Dick, if you had figures from our construction managers, our architects or whatever, identifying that it's going to cost X amount for the plumbing, X amount, and you're identifying that you're going to do those things, and with that caveat, then we probably could do some of those things. My concern is that we've received information. I mean, $3 million isn't going to get the job done, and we know that.
Yeah, so my point of confusion is how is that $325,000 for the roof and tuck pointing? Is that in that 41 million?
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
For tuck pointing and the roof, it's in the 41 million. All right, thank you.
Well, sounds like it's time to back down a little bit then.
So did we had a motion, did I second it? I think
Is
so.
your
So we gotta
microphone
vote.
on?
We gotta
Dick,
vote on that?
What's that, Phyllis?
I was wondering if Dick's mic is on because he's close to it, but still can't hear him.
It's on. He's just too soft spoken, and with the mask on, it's even.
And he was
Well,
thinking.
normally I can hear him well. but-
Yeah.
He was thinking, not talking.
You were hearing my thoughts.
Oh, that's it. Loud brain, huh?
I hate it when that happens.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is do we have to vote on this 44 first?
Unless Dick.
Unless I
rescinds
amend it.
Amend it.
Amend it or rescind it, one of the two.
I think it may be better to just amend it. First.
Start over.
Start over? Okay,
Withdraw your motion and start over, I think would be the cleanest.
okay, let's, I'll just rescind that motion.
I'll
Okay.
rescind my second.
Okay,
So that motion's been rescinded. Now we can
now we
start
can
fresh.
start over. Okay,
Now we can do the 41, which includes the roof and the tuck pointing,
yep,
but we don't have to wait for the bond issue to do the roof and tuck pointing.
Correct.
correct.
So we can do that. I mean, if we did the 41 million, we can have Dick get a hold of the builder and see when they, give us a hard price and see when they can start.
Yes,
Yeah, we need to get that done.
Can I raise a question?
Please.
That 41 million, I don't think allocates money for land acquisition.
It does.
It does?
Yep, it's in
It
there.
does. Yep.
I'm going by the information Dick gave us for the 18th. 41 million requires land acquisition of new jail, law enforcement center, courts, and government services. So I just want to,
Yeah,
I just want to make sure that
it's
we're
priced
all
in
on the
there.
same page. Okay.
Yep, we priced it in.
Okay, so it is priced in.
Yep.
Good. So,
okay. So I would move to adopt resolution number 2021-12, which would include the new site option for an estimated project cost of $41 million,
Up to 41.
up to 41 million,
To include.
up to and include.
No, what do you-
Oh, to include the new jail, a new law enforcement center, new courts building, government services center, and exterior maintenance of the existing courthouse and funds to repurpose the existing property.
And I might add that it should have acquire property as well.
Land acquisition.
And land acquisition, isn't it a new site?
Okay.
I
The only concern I
have,
have is the language that says that what we're gonna do to the existing courthouse. Because the only thing we have in the 41 million is just simply the tuck pointing in the roof.
Tuck pointing and roof, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, tuck pointing and roof.
So here's what I have to inject for improvements, and you guys tell me if I'm missing something. To pay for the new jail, law enforcement safety center, courts, government services, and land acquisition, as well as exterior courthouse maintenance costs on existing site.
I'd say stabilization costs.
Okay. So courthouse stabilization costs.
You comfortable with that, Tom?
Tom, you,
Yep.
sorry to drag you through another 20 minutes of that.
And then the two other spots where it says for the purpose of, I would include the same language up here of the improvements.
It's interesting that the resolution has both plural and singular language in it. It kind of gets confusing.
Is there any concern that we'd encumber the existing courthouse with this debt when it comes time to sell it?
It does. Bothers me because we can't get rid of it then without satisfying that portion and getting it released.
yeah.
Yeah.
Again, Tom Grimman.
Oh,
Go ahead. I just wanted to take a moment to consider putting preservation, word preservation in there instead of stabilization, or stabilization and preservation, so that both words are in there. I think preservation is an important word if you want it to pass the voters.
I'd be okay with that, I guess. Did we get a second yet?
Not yet. You're still working on yours.
Yeah.
I-
in itself preservation?
I think so.
Yeah.
That was my interpretation.
I mean, I think at this point, the language is pretty important because that'll be what goes into the resolution. So that'll be what you're actually moving to pass then.
So we
And
should be-
this is Alexis again. My only hesitation with that is it an implicit promise to the voters? And if it is, do you intend to keep that? I mean, with all due respect, there's a reason to include the language stabilization plus preservation. And I just don't know if that's intended to indicate then historic preservation. That's not what I've heard here. It's a
Right.
stabilization of the structure.
I think we need to stick to what we're going to do with that 41 million.
Yeah, and then I think that it would be very wise of the commission before June 8th to pass a historic preservation covenant on the property. And again, as Alexis said, it's part of keeping our faith with the voters.
We'll have that discussion at a later time, but so Tom had something to add, I think, to your.
Well, there was just a comment about the property being encumbered. And I'm thinking about this, and again, I'm not the attorney here, but we're not taking a lease out, and contrary to a little bit what I think Dick was thinking about, we're just doing a GO bond. So if the county commission decides to sell that property, they can sell that property. It's not encumbered in per se like you would have if you had a lease structure. Because in a lease structure, they set up a ground lease, and that ground lease is outstanding for the term of the bonds. And in this case, we're not going to take a lease out. We're not going to take a ground lease out. It's just going to be general obligation bonds. So I don't think that the property is not going to be encumbered. It's not, the new site won't be encumbered if it gets passed. It's just a general obligation bond. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right.
Do we have 24 hours to recheck this language? Just a thought.
So I would like to repeat it one more time, because if you guys hear something that you don't like or don't agree with, I just want to make sure, and I'll say it slowly, so then I have it and Carrie has it, and you guys know. So hereby finds it necessary to pay for the new jail, law enforcement safety center, courts, government services, and land acquisition, as well as current exterior courthouse stabilization costs, parentheses, the improvements, if so approved by the voters. That's what the first line of that resolution would say. And that's how we define improvements and what is going to be covered. Then as you go down in the resolution, not exceeding $41 million payable from 1 to not exceeding 30 years. Go on there, the next blank line in the proposed resolution for purposes of, and then we would reiterate that language again. Once again, in number 2 for election, not exceeding $41 million. And the language again of, for the purpose of new jail, law enforcement center, courts, government services, and land acquisition costs, as well as current exterior courthouse stabilization costs.
Can we?
And I think for simplicity purpose, we could probably just define those things as improvements in 2 different locations, but for clarification purposes for the voters, I wouldn't do that. I would list it all out twice.
Is there any way to get the word preservation in there?
That's up to you guys.
Well, it's up to you, I think legally. I was thinking stabilization / preservation.
You did it of the exterior, preservation of the exterior, because that would help clarify that it's not preserving beyond that.
I could go for that, exterior preservation.
Dick, would you say that again?
They would have exterior preservation, stabilization and preservation of the exterior.
Did you catch that, Lexi?
No, I did not.
So you won't, sorry, Dick, you're gonna have to say it
Yeah.
again.
So it would be for the stabilization and preservation of the exterior of the courthouse. And something else I just want to throw out here on a number here to just to conclude, so you know exactly what we put in here for contingency. Right now, we've got a 5% construction contingency, and we've got a 1.5% for design contingency, meaning from variations of the design. One consideration is if you want more, depends on how much community input you have. If you have more community input, you may consider we could possibly bump that.
There's a motion on the floor.
So
We've just got a motion.
Okay.
Is everybody clear on what the motion is?
so that preserving the outside, the exterior of the courthouse, that's part of it?
It's up to 41 million to build new jail, law enforcement, courts, government offices, and acquire land and preserve the exterior. Or what was the other word? Exterior and what? Do we have?
Stabilize and preserve.
I think we had
Stabilize.
stabilization and preservation of the exterior of the current courthouse.
There.
Yep.
I'll second that.
I think my brain's going soft
Yeah,
now.
me too, but I think I'll second that.
Okay.
So
So,
hang in a little further.
so Phyllis and Betty, are you clear on what the motion is?
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes,
Smith,
Yes,
Packard,
Yes.
Mochler.
Yes, motion passes. Does anybody have anything else that they want to discuss? I'm through the agenda, so. No executive session or anything? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
so moved.
Thank you all for,
Got a motion and a second. Roll call.
Hold time out.
Oh,
Did you call the date for the election? I mean, was that resolution as the language was? Did you call the date for the election? Was that resolution of the entire proposal then adopted?
we didn't call the date.
It is.
isn't that in the resolution?
It is.
It's in the
It is?
bones of the resolution
Okay.
that was printed the 8th day of June from 2021 between the hours of 7:00 a.m. and 7:00 p.m.
And in referencing it as we were going through that, hopefully that's sufficient.
Yeah.
We got 2 months to sell it.
70 days from today. It's 70 days.
Well, and early voting starts when?
April 23rd. So
Yeah.
absentee voting starts April 23rd.
Yeah, I need to have a roll call for.
So
adjournment.
I'm sorry, I missed the motion in the second. I forgot who did those.
So Dick, I think, made the motion to adjourn,
I'll take it.
and
Yeah.
Phyllis was the second.
Okay,
Okay,
I thought
that works.
Phyllis seconded, but I wasn't so sure. Okay, so then Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
yes.
Mochler.
Yes, we're adjourned. Dick, can you talk to the construction company and get us an estimate on tuck boarding in the roof?
Yes, I will do that.
Shh, hey, just 1 second. What was that, Dick?
Yes, I will do that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, sorry.